and seeing you through this process. But just wanted to before we kind of get started, tell you what, you mind shutting off the music? The music as it plays, as we found earlier, I tend to start to sing with it, so we're going to spare y'all. It's one to where, all right, it's 3 seconds till I start belting them out, Stacy. Stacy saves your ears and me every time. It is one, though, this is a great thing, and we really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to be part of this. We put this on for the first time last year in order to be able to really get to understand our citizens, get to know them, the ones who are especially interested in their local government, in their community, and also be able to kind of brag and boast and teach you about what is the things that your tax dollars are paying for. What is it that we as your public servants are providing to you every day, that some of which you know about, some of which you may not know about. And along this journey, you're going to meet some very interesting people who are so thrilled and ecstatic about the work that they do and the services that they're providing every day for you, the citizen. And so with that, though, we'd like to know a little bit about you, about as far as, and for you to share that also with your fellow classmates. You're in this for nearly a year, and so it's one to where Missouri City, as we often talk about, is long and skinny, and we've got people from all over that come out and are part of this community. And it's important for us to know where you're from, as well as for you to know each other, because some of the services we provide differ and change depending upon where you live. You may have, there's different parks that we're taking care of. There's, of course, different streets and drainage issues throughout the city, and also different things that are happening throughout the city. And so it's kind of important for us, as we know who you are and where you live, we can then also start to make sure we talk about the issues that are important to your neighborhoods or to your community, or if Councilman Marie was still here, your district that you might live in. And so with that, Stacy, do you want to kind of do our intro or kind of come on up and identify yourself piece? There you go, Stacy.
Thank you. So thanks again, everybody, for coming out. We know the weather is not good tonight, but we really appreciate you taking the time out not only to join the class, but to join us tonight. One of the things that I want to do right from the beginning is give you all an opportunity to get to know one another. So I'd like for you to start from here and come up and introduce yourself to the class and share with us your main goal for joining Citizens University, what you'd like to learn or how you'd like to contribute, or what interested you about the program. And then we have this city map here that has all of the subdivisions. So after you introduce yourself, if you could take your tab of choice, everybody likes different colors, mine's blue, and just place it on your subdivision here. So at the end of your introductions, we have a feel for which subdivisions in the city are represented. And we pretty much have residents citywide in this class, which is another great thing for us because we get a lot of citizen input and feedback from you. So without further ado.
My name is Christy Hooper. I'm recently retired, and now I have some time to do this sort of thing, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm especially interested in the parks and recycling, of all things. But I've enjoyed watching how the recycling has really taken off, and I'm just interested in those two areas in particular. I'm in the Quail Valley area.
Let's see if we can find out. Pick your tab of color.
And you'll see Cliff walking around with the video camera. And one of the things that is part of this project for Citizens University is using this to kind of really put together a video that will show it during the graduation dinner. And so if you see Cliff walking around or anything, it's not just act natural.
Yes. Is that, it should have been, should I put it on the blue?
Doesn't have to be exact. If you get in the general area, that gives us an idea. But
Okay, Christy lives in Pebble Beach, which is in the Quail Valley area.
Hi, I'm Thomasine Johnson, and I live and work in Missouri City. I retired 12 years ago, but I work harder now than I ever did in my life. I love Missouri City. I'm on a couple of boards for the city, and Stacy can just ask me to do anything, and I'll do it. I live in Vicksburg, but I work, my husband and I work in Lake Olympia. Are y'all familiar with the old development that used to be the original sales office in Lake Olympia? Okay, well, we bought that and we work there. We lease out some space there. But I love Missouri City, and I thought this would be a grand time to learn everything it is to know about the city, because I just think it's a great city. Now, I can put where I work, because I'm there more.
Okay.
No, I'm teasing. Vicksburg.
We won't tell the IRS.
Okay. Y'all could go ahead on to the next
Vicksburg
person.
down here.
That's Kitty Hollow. Here it is. Right up in here.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. Michelle?
Hello, I'm Michelle Broussard. I live in Quail Valley. I've been a resident of Missouri City for about 30 years. Both of my children were born here, as I like to say, at Lowe's. And everybody says, well, once you gave birth, didn't you learn not to go and have birth again? Because the hospital, of course, is torn down now. But what I like to know is the long-term plan for Missouri City, because the 30 years I've lived here, I've seen it change so much. And I know in the next maybe 60 years that I live here, because it's my retirement home, where we're going to be at that time. And my husband just retired from the Missouri City Police Department last summer with almost 40 years of service, Sergeant Broussard. So we are entrenched in the community, and we hope to keep on giving back. So I found out one street over from Christie, so that's easy now. So that'll be easy to put my flag down.
Pick your color. Okay, Miss Karen.
Hello, I'm Karen Lambert, recently retired. It'll be a year, well, it is a year this month. Yay. After 32 years of slaving for somebody else, I'm free. I am now interested in doing a little bit more, getting into a little more business. I am president of my HOA, and I would like to learn a lot more about the city. It means a lot when you know more and you just don't give people any kind of answer when they ask you. So if I can learn a little bit more about the city, I think I would be a better person to my neighborhood to be able to give information to them, and who knows, maybe they'll be in the next class. Thank you. Okay, where am I? Green. I don't have a glasses on. Quill green. No, not West. Just regular quill green.
Here's how there's a point of state.
No.
You're not down here. That's Hunter's Green. No. And I'm supposed to know the city. That's kind of sad. Here it is. Pink on pink. Love it. Young lady?
I need to swallow first. My name is Elaine Mitchell. Edith on here, but I use Elaine. And I live right across the street in Hunters Point Estates. And I've been here, this will be my 30th year this year. And I want to learn a lot about the city, but I really want to find out what's going to happen to help us get something on this side of Missouri City. I've heard people say we're on the east side of the light poles. So how can we get something developed on the east side of the light poles? Okay, thank you.
Hunters Point Estates. Okay, I know where that one's at, right here.
Oh, I'm supposed to use one
whichever is your favorite color.
Where am I right?
Right here.
Okay, by the post office. Somewhere in here. Okay.
Awesome. Young man,
I'm Carl Ryder. I'm a retired Marine surveyor and salvage diver. We moved to Missouri City in December 1964. Fondren Road was a 2-lane dirt road, and City Hall was a double wide right across the street from Holy Name Catholic Church. Most of this area was rice fields. Fondren Park was, when we moved there, was part of Harris County. And we are the only part of Missouri City that's in Harris County. It's the old Walter Fondren estate. I'm here to finally find out the truth of what my wife, who was a former city councilman for the last 20 years, to see if all the stuff she was telling me was true. I thank you. I'm colorblind. Oh, yes, I am.
okay, well, that's a good color.
Where's Fondren Park?
That's Fondren Road, Fondren Park.
Now, we're not responsible for any arguments once you find out that she may have been stretching some stories.
Young lady?
Good evening to everyone. My name is Dr. Alice Thompson. I'm a retired educational administrator from this area. And one of the reasons why I wanted to be a part of this group is I wanted to learn more about the city. And I also wanted to know how decisions are made that impact the different subdivisions. A couple of my organizations, we planted trees in the area. We've done gardens. We give a lot of scholarships. So I just want to make sure that, you know, that the wealth is spread all over the Missouri City area and not just on one side, the east side as well. And I live in Lake Olympia.
There's a green.
That's okay, I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay. Are you pink and green?
Yes.
Oh,
You too?
no, but I respect
Okay,
it.
Lake Plantation Wood.
Okay, so we have Palmer Plantation, Flamingo Estates. All of this is Lake Olympia, no? In here, all of this is Lake Olympia. What's the name of it?
Plantation Wood Lane.
Take my bifocals off. Is that the name of your street?
Yes.
Oh.
Plantation. It's Lake Olympia. I don't have my glasses. You're right here.
Awesome. Okay, young man, your turn. I don't know who else has bifocals, but when you get real close, yes.
I got the fancy reading glasses from Walmart, and I've been doing good for 20 years. My name is Larry Bell. We recently moved up here from Corpus Christi, where we lived the last 32 years. However, once upon a time before then, I actually lived across the street with my wife and starting our family in Hunters Glen from 75 through 81 when we took a job change and took us south. I'd like to say I came up here to see this beautiful city and everything, but the truth be told, I have the two most beautiful grandchildren living in Quail Valley. I've got a phone full of pictures to show you, and we're 1.5 miles if you drive and less than a mile if you take a golf cart to see them. So that's the reason we're here. I got involved in this because a lot's changed. I was involved in Corpus Christi and the system, if you will, and I wanted to check out and see what the system is here and how things work. I'm still finding my way around because these were old pastures out here. That fire station was built it's not a fire station now, but that Fire Station 1 at the time, and just finding my way around, driving down 90 to get into town, all these overpasses, it's unbelievable. I might not have left if all those stoplights, but we're here. We don't plan on moving. The kids moved. My wife was most concerned. I said, they've got these people called realtors. We can sell the house and buy another one and stalk them. And that's it. And I live in Lake Olympia.
Okay, what's your street so I can take my bifocals off and start looking?
Corona Del Mar, watered down pier.
Okay. I don't know about Water Day.
Come down Misty Hollow. Where's Misty Hollow?
This is all of Lake Olympia right here.
Villa Del Lago. Okay, this map's on its side. You don't have North Bay there. That's where I am. Perfect. Right there.
Beautiful.
I was infantry. I learned how to navigate.
Beautiful. Okay, young man, you're next.
Hi, my name is Vinod Kurian. I just moved to Houston about a year ago. I moved from Chicago, was born and raised in Chicago. Took a complete career change and complete temperature change. So when they're talking about freezing rain, everybody's freezing and closing everything, I'm like, what's the big deal? But yeah, I'm actually right now in Missouri City in Kananayan Homes. It's right by Staffordshire and Court. I've got family there as a retirement area living. We haven't really got our place yet. We're just kind of still finding the area, and I'm here right now just trying to get more information on Missouri City. So hopefully making that my place of living soon. Yep, that's it. Thank you. Kananayan Homes, right, Staffordshire and Court.
Pick,
Kananayan Homes right there. Yep.
beautiful. Pick your color. You're welcome.
Hi, my name's Bill Swinton. I've lived in Missouri City for 13 years. I moved here from California in about 2000, Quail Valley. The reason I'm here is I participated in the Police and Fire Academy a couple years ago, and I always thought the city was pretty well run, particularly with the whole situation regarding the golf course. And I also like the periodic recycling setups that they have, so I figured I'd just take part and see how the city's run.
Color. Okay. Staff people don't count. They have to live here 24/7.
I'm Tommy Blankenship. I've lived here since 1982. That's what, 32 years. When I first moved here, I could walk a lot better. My knees weren't anywhere near as bad as they are now. Been retired about 5 years. When I went into retirement, I accepted a position on our homeowners board, and I find I'm working a whole lot more now than I did when I was working. Reason I'm here really is to interface and meet as many of you as I can, and to learn some of the mechanisms that makes our city work. I remember Highway 6 is a 2-lane road. I first moved here, I came out of law enforcement originally, and I thought it was pretty neat that the police department had Volvos. So I thought it might be a great place to be, and sure enough it has. But the city's grown so much and it's changed so much over these last 32 years that it's got my curiosity worked up as to where we'll be in another 10 or 20. Nice to meet all of you and hope to meet you personally.
Any specific color? Any color you like. Just any color I like.
Okay, young lady.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ethel King. I have been here for almost, well, a little bit over 17 years. We are a military family, and my husband retired, and we moved here. And this is the first time I've ever lived anywhere this length of time. So I've been enjoying Missouri City. The reason why I got on this board, I wanted to see what this city was like, what was going on. I've seen all the changes. I do remember when Highway 6 was just the 2 lanes, because I used to have to travel down it. I don't work, never really worked, so I can't say I'm retired. But being a military wife, you know, and you're traveling, so you never get to make a career for yourself. But now these 17 years that I've been here, I've really enjoyed Missouri City. Thank you.
Okay. So you live all over the city?
So I can say, guys, I'm from Hunter's Glen 5, and I do serve on our board.
Awesome. Okay, so we're up here.
I'm over here, right here, Hunter's Glen Elementary.
Awesome. All right.
Good evening. I'm Roseanne Dillon. I live in Sienna Point, which is an acreage subdivision further east of Sienna Plantation extraterritorial jurisdiction. So I am as east as we can get for some of the people talking about east of the line. I'm a retired mutual fund trader, worked on Wall Street for 24 years, moved from New York to Missouri City, well, to Houston, and then we've lived in Missouri City for 7 years. I'm here with twofold reasons. Living in an ETJ, it's very difficult for me to understand what to call home, because Missouri City is my address, but we can't vote for the mayor. And so it's difficult for me to understand the city processes and the decisions that are being made by departments that I may or may not be able to have influence in. So it's difficult. We're trying to understand. I'm trying to understand from the position as an adult, but also as a homeschool parent. Part of the requirements as a homeschool parent, teacher, is to teach the study of good citizenship to your children. And so I never had the municipal process taught to me in public school. And I looked at this as a great opportunity to learn this process and pass it down into the children or the daughter that I educate, and then through our co-ops, the Sienna Plantation co-ops that I actually run a Yahoo group for co-op, to be able to pay forward the information I receive here and hand it out to the people in our community. That's all. And I live in Sienna Point. I said that. Oh, and last time I wasn't sure Sienna Point made the map, so we'll see if it's on here today.
It may not be there, but it's in this area.
Nope. It's down here.
Just outside of Lubbock.
There you go.
That's where we're going to grow in the future, so the map's going to go from here to here.
Good evening. My name is Bruce Lane, and I'm a recent elected board member also for Hunters Glen 1 and 2. And one of my main purposes of being here is to understand the infrastructure of Missouri City and how it works and what money is allocated, where and what's going, who and who's getting what, because I'm ignorant to that fact. So we need to know so I can help the people in my community when they ask me a question. Maybe I can speak to them intelligently. And second of all, I just wanted to meet everybody that was a part of Missouri City City Council and all to have a face to go with the name. Just like Stacy, I think I've bothered her 4 or 5 times. I'm surprised she don't know me. But it is good to finally see a face. And that's the main reason that I'm here. And I'm also recently retired, and it's a wonderful thing so far. And to all you guys that have AT&T, I was the manager in this area, and I'm thankful you don't call me anymore. Thank you.
Come on, you need to put your pointer on the map. You don't get off that easy.
Now, you know anybody with AT&T or AT&T?
No, I don't know anybody. Dealwood.
I was going to help you, but now I'm not.
You wasn't not gonna, we'll catch your phones up.
Ed to the rescue. Gentlemen, it's your turn.
Oh, our alumni. We have alumni.
No. We have one more.
Oh, is a member as well?
Yes, he's going to be grandfathered in. Come on, Daniel, we gotta keep it moving. Gotta keep the train going.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Silva. I am part of the Homeowners Association group here at Glen Park Subdivision, one right next to E.L. Jones, that little elementary school, the new school and new middle school also. And currently lived here for 11 years and making Missouri City my home. So I do want to be here, learn, and take this information back to my community and share it with them. I want to be able to do that. Thank you.
Pick your color. We might need your help again, Ed, because...
Which one is
No, it's up here somewhere. Okay, so that's Fifth Avenue.
Middle school, right there.
Bam, perfect. Okay, very briefly, I want to acknowledge some special guests we have in the audience tonight, gentlemen. They are graduates of our First Citizens University class, and they've paved the way for all of us, so I'll let them... I'm going to put them on the spot and just have them quickly introduce themselves.
How was the food? She didn't ask us to eat, so I don't know. Stacy's wonderful. I like to pick on her, as y'all can see. As she mentioned, we came through the first class, and we had fun with it. We got to meet everybody, and we challenged the Missouri City people and made them stretch a little bit. And so they've grown this course, this class, so it's going to be a lot more informative. Missouri City, as some said, have been here for 50 years. I'm not really sure, but it has grown. I've been out here 35 years, and I think it was about 12,000 when we moved out here. It to me, is one of the best kept secrets around. Our police force does a fantastic job. Ed's been mentioned for the job he's doing, how well the city runs. We don't have some of the luxuries that maybe surrounding cities do, so we have to manage, our city managers have to do more with less, as they say. But they do a great job. Our police force, we can't say enough about them. Our fire department are great. So you're going to meet some interesting people and some very fine people. The employees of Missouri City are some of the finest ones I've met. They're doing a great job. Like I say, resident out here 35 years, and I'm going to stay as long as they let me. Thank you, Stacey.
Please eat.
I'm Roy Gilbert. I've lived in Quail Valley for about 27 years, I guess. Had not gotten involved in too many things until I got into this university deal and really enjoyed it. It's been very educational. You're going to meet some really interesting people. You're going to find out that we've really got some great employees in the city. And people like Ed and our mayor and council do a fantastic job with what we have. We don't have a mall to bring in multi-million dollars in sales taxes. So we have to get by with less. You want to develop the east side, you're going to have to find a developer with deep pockets. The city can't do it. Are we spending money on the east side? Look at the upcoming bond. Charlie and I were on the bond committee. You're going to get a big chunk of that. Lee in Vicksburg, you're going to get a new fire station with $1 million fire truck. It's going to reduce your response time over there and help your insurance rate on your home. It will help everybody in Missouri City. There's a lot going on right now. And I strongly encourage you to support the bond committee in the bond election, because that money is being spread evenly all over the city. I was vice chair of that committee I know where every penny of it is. And we tried to spread it because we had a lot of people from all over the city wanting a piece of it. And we've done the best we can do with the limited funds that we have. But back to what you guys are going to do, you're going to learn so much, you're not going to believe it. And you're going to enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. Stacy's going to make it fun. Ed's going to make it fun. And you're going to love it.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Ken Callis, part of the first group of these gentlemen over here. One thing I will say, I'll be brief, that I will say, but everything that you guys said that y'all requested and wanted to learn, you will get it here, plus a little bit more. It's fun. You get to meet your fellow Missouri citizens. I've only been here 2 years, and so when I got into the course last year, I had been here just a few months, and my motive to get in was similar to like a lot of you guys. I wanted to, the gentleman from Chicago, I wanted to kind of get in and see, learn about the city, learn the people, learn the infrastructure, learn all that, and I got all that and some. The food's okay, it's real good, some from week to week. Stacy's real good. Just make sure you show up and have a good time.
I told him I was going to embarrass him earlier, but you did great, so I'm not going to. Okay, so we have one class member who just arrived, Sarah. Hi. And I'm going to let you quickly introduce yourself and show us where you live on the map. Okay, come on. We'll hold your purse. What's your subdivision?
Thunderbird North.
Awesome. Okay, so you want to introduce yourself and I'll put yours.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I am Vice President of my HOA at Thunderbird North, Quail Valley, and just thought this would be interesting.
Okay, can we help Sarah locate her notebook? Awesome. Sarah, you're right here. Thank you. And if you want dinner, it's on the table in the back. Okay, awesome. All right, so just a couple of more housekeeping notes before I pass the mic back to Ed. Before the beginning of each presentation, we're going to ask you all to give us some feedback. Tonight's presentations will focus on the city manager's office. And in the back, we have Assistant City Manager Bill Atkinson with the tie and Assistant City Manager Scott Elmer. Okay. And we'll also have a presentation on the city secretary's office and a mock city council meeting. So as part of that, we want to ask you, what are 3 things or 5 things you would like us to touch upon tonight? And we'll write them on the whiteboard, and as Ed and Maria are presenting, we'll make sure we cover those topics for you. So does anybody, based on those presentation topics, have anything they want to make sure we cover tonight?
City managers? Why?
Okay, so the question is, why do we have 3 city managers? Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
For those who aren't familiar, differentiate your job responsibilities as city manager from the mayor and the city council. I have my degree in political science, I'm more familiar with it, but many might not be.
Any other questions we want to make sure that we touch upon tonight?
Is the city making any progress with Union Pacific about the rail corridor into Houston, commuter rail?
How the districts are decided for voting, like for the city council, or how they divide the lines?
And one more we can add.
What can the city do to provide more connectivity between the subdivisions of the city?
Just 5. Got to raise your hand fast.
She'll do this at the beginning of each class, so make sure that, yeah, you shove the other person out of the way. I think I had to ask one last time.
We will have a Q&A at the end of the sessions. And just really quickly, one other thing, before you leave tonight, we have a survey, feedback survey, and if possible, I'd like everybody to complete it and just leave it on top of your binders before you leave, and leave your binders also at the end of the class.
Thank you, ma'am. If I noticed at the very beginning of the class, but if you don't mind giving Stacy a hand, just because she and her staff, and hopefully she'll introduce her staff either at the end of this one or at the communications one, do an outstanding job. I mean, for those who come to council meetings or been to council meetings, you know this isn't the usual shape of the room. This isn't the setup. This isn't, it's when you come to council meetings, it's not as festive. We don't have balloons. And it's one where she takes this room and made it into something that's a little bit more enjoyable, a little bit more kind of comfortable. And it's one to where, I'm talking about the room, but the presentations, the notebooks in front of you, all of this is a result of her and her staff's hard work, and we are very appreciative of it. And just, it's one to where they just do an outstanding job, and thank you for that. If I can, just a little bit, I'm going to kind of review your itinerary for tonight, and I'm going to steal someone's book, just so I can give you an idea of what to expect as we go through this. Where's the schedule at, Stacy, on this sucker? Oh, the actual schedule is on the podium? Oh, check that out. She's already prepped it for me. Oh, no, the meetings that they're going to be having? Just to give you an idea of just, and I think y'all saw it in probably some of the promotional material, but of just what to expect as you go through this course. We'll have, of course, tonight we'll talk about the city council, the city manager, and city secretary, and our roles. The next time you meet will be on legal department and municipal court. They will be doing their presentation. You'll have in March, you'll be learning more about our public works department, specifically about traffic management and the animal shelter. In April, we'll do one on economic development and finance. And so some of the things that, especially that I was hearing in some of the different topics that came forward and things that you said you were interested in, I think you're going to hear a lot about those issues on that night. In May, the fire department and IT will do their presentations. And then in June, we'll have a tour of our city center and golf course and go through that as far as facility. In July, we'll have our Parks and Recreation. We'll do an overview of their department and all the services that they provide. And we'll also have our Human Resources and Organizational Development Department come forward to do a presentation and talk to you about, of the 300-plus employees that we have, how do we keep them motivated, how do we keep them trained, and how do we make sure we get quality employees fit in each of those positions. And then in August, we will have the police department. We'll do their overview, along with having our communications department. Y'all are doing y'all's presentation that night. And in September, our development services will take the stage and talk about the different services that they're providing. And then come October, we'll have our graduation ceremony recognizing y'all, and we'll invite the council, and they'll have a special event that goes along with the graduation ceremony. So that's your kind of course for the rest of this year. It is one to where you'll have, each month will be just filled with different issues and topics and things that you were interested in or didn't even know you were interested in, but now will be interested in. And so with that, it's exciting. As I told you all earlier, my name is Ed Broussard. I'm city manager of Missouri City. I've been city manager since January of 2012. And it's one to where this has been an exciting city. Missouri City, as we joked earlier, it's long and skinny. It's one to where, as y'all heard the history through each other of this community, about the amount of time you've lived here, whether for some it's been 30-plus years and for some it's maybe been just a few years. It's one to where it grew up here in Harris County and has been one to where it kind of continued to develop south. And along here we have, of course, Stafford, that has been our neighbor to the north, and Sugar Land, our neighbor to the west. Houston, of course, sits right here to us. We have been able to benefit quite a bit off of 90A and Beltway 8. in regards to especially economic development and industrial development over the past decade. And the community truly has grown from being a bedroom community of which it was known. And in fact, I was, as a young boy, my aunt and uncle and grandmother lived in Missouri City in Quail Valley East, and I remember going to behind the elementary school over there and playing over there, and just remember it being a bedroom community. I just wondered where, when my aunt, when I told her we were moving to Missouri City, she said, you know, that's on the, essentially, she remembered it back from the 80s and 90s, where it was, that's just on the edge of the frontier. I mean, there's nothing out there. And as y'all all know from living here in Missouri City now and driving around, that's no longer the case. And so it has grown quite a bit, and with it has been our 70,000 plus citizens, along with another 20,000 that we have currently living in the Siena area that we are providing services to, and we are working with, and you are a great representation of our community. I want to talk a little bit about what is municipal government, and just kind of start off on the basics. Often we do some of these courses with everything from elementary school students to adults such as yourselves, and we often ask, especially at the schools, what do you think the city does? What does the city provide? And often they'll say, well, you built that store there, didn't you? Or y'all did this, that, or the other. And often it's a kind of a wild misinterpretation about what actually does your local government provide and what is your city offering you. And it's one to where here in the state of Texas, we're different than every other state. And as I look at especially some of the financial issues a lot of the other states have faced, I'm glad for it. In Texas, it's one to where we've actually been quite independent in regards to being cities. And also your county and some of your others have quite a bit of latitude, but especially your municipal government does. It's one to where there's fewer than 1,500 cities here in this great state. But one of the things I want to make sure that we touch upon, though, is not only the cities, but you especially here in Missouri City come upon different local government units in all different types of forms and fashions because of the way that the community has developed and what has been really especially a Houston-centric type of development function. It's one to where I asked in the slide here about what does your, kind of name some of your local government units. And so let me just kind of throw that out there. What are some of the local government units that you have, that you deal with here in Missouri City? And the city, I've already claimed the city, so you can't state the city. Fire and police is provided by the city. So what about a local government? So what is it? There is, like I said up here in the slide, there's 4,000 local government units in the state. Only 1,500 of those are cities. And you are touched by, no matter where you live in Missouri City, a number of different local government units. Water District, MUDs, exactly. That's the big one that we have here in Missouri City. The county is one. There's another one. Which one? Levy. The levy districts, exactly. What about, except for Siena, you all are also part of another district that you have voting authority over. Congressional State District. You got your congressional state, but your local government unit, Houston Community College. I'll just give you some of these. HCC is one to where you have voting authority for the board of directors there. It is a tax levy that is placed on you by HCC. And of course, we mentioned MUDs. We mentioned as far as the levy districts, the city, the county. Some cities have, or areas have maybe special districts that were created for either police or fire service to provide additional funding towards. There's another one that you may not often think about, although it was brought up in regards to the commuter rail issue, and it's Metro. Metro is one of your local government units that you have that sits on top of Missouri City. That it makes us different than actually a number of the districts or the cities around us. So it's one to where local government, besides the city, touches you in all forms and fashions here in this community. And like I said, here in Missouri City, especially with the number of MUDs we have and with Metro and some of these other things, you actually have more local government units affecting you than other places in this state. For these, and I'm going to skip a couple of these as far as MUDs and your county, though your county really does one to where It is a great coordinator of things. Many counties, and this one including, really specialize in road and bridge repairs in the sheriff's office. But here in Fort Bend County especially, they have done an excellent job of saying, how can we do more things collaboratively, being able to bring the cities together in discussions with the county, bringing other partners together. And so it's one to where this is, I just want to make sure I get special recognition to our county commissioners and our county judge because of really how progressive they are in working with the cities here in Fort Bend County. Many times you'll deal with counties that say, we get county taxes, of which you are all paying, even though you live in the city limits, but we're going to use those for county services outside of your city limits to pay for other services. But here in Fort Bend County, and especially our two commissioners that we have that serve us, Commissioners Prestige and Patterson, have done a great job of being able to say, we are collecting money from you as citizens of Fort Bend County, and we're going to put those back into especially roadway projects that we have here. And some of these, including the Lexington extension, Vicksburg extension, some of these projects and streets are being done with county funds coming up front with cities participating afterwards. As regards to your municipal government, and this kind of starts to touch upon the differentiating of the roles of the mayor, the council, and the city manager. Here in this state, we have really two forms of municipal government. We have what's called the strong mayor form of government, and we have the council manager form of government. And living here in Houston, you have the ability to actually see both in action around you quite often. Houston is one of the few cities that is the only large city left in the state that still has the strong mayor form of government. And with the strong mayor form of government, it is much the way of the mayor is your chief elected official, and not only your chief elected official, they are the chief executive officer of that organization. The mayor has the ability to pretty well, I mean, she sets the agenda. Well, this is in specific in Houston, but with strong mayor form of government, you also have it here in Stafford, next door, I should state. And they are able to set the agenda for what is the direction of the city. They are able to tell staff what to do and how to do it. And so they really are the ones in charge of the city and the organization. So they provide the role of both the chief elected official, but also the chief executive officer for that organization. The council manager form of government, and I'll talk quite a bit about as far as the role of city manager and the history of city manager later, that has been one that has come about, and you see here in the Houston area, in places especially, here your own hometown of Missouri City. You see it in Sugar Land and Pearland, and Rosenberg, Richmond have some form of it. And so it's one to where this is actually the prevalent form of municipal government here in this state, especially for cities that are over 5,000 in size. And the 5,000 mark comes in important because we talk here about general law municipalities and home rule municipalities. And general law municipalities are really cities that have been they are usually less than 5,000 in size as far as population. They have really as far as kind of a script set forth by the state of these are the rules and ordinances and laws that you can utilize in your community. In home rule cities, we have city charters. And so when this city was organized back in the 50s, it decided that it was going to be a home rule, and once it hit over the 5,000 mark, which I guess was actually probably in the 70s, it put into place a home rule charter. And the city charter is in essence the constitution of our organization in this community. It states these are the powers of the city council, these are the powers of the city manager, these are the powers of, as far as it outlines how we will be able to do things such as annexation, or what powers of annexation we want to set forth in ourselves, how the city is organized, sometimes even how council meetings are to be organized. And so the city charter sets forth kind of it sets the stage for how is the city going to function. And so the city council authorized the charter, and the charter can be changed every 4 years. It can go out for an election and be amended if possible. We recently had an amendment back in, I believe it was May of 2012, if not November of 2012. And with those amendments were really as far as just housekeeping items that, because of state law changes or whatever, we needed to just clean up in our city charter. But it is one to where it does set forth really the organization of the city. And it is really, we go back to it and use it for really what are the different roles of, like I said, the council, the mayor, the city manager, the city secretary, and city attorney. It kind of sets forth our job descriptions. But it also gives the council the ability and latitude of being able to set forth their own laws and ordinances in this community that really exemplify what are the characteristics of the community that they want to see. So they are, the city council, and this is where the latitude that the state gives and more the independence that the state gives our cities here in Texas. We have the ability to say if we want to, different laws related to code enforcement or related to planning and zoning. And there are sometimes guidelines set by the state or laws that we need to make sure we are adhering to, but it also, though, they have more flexibility than they do maybe in other states. And especially, a lot of that has to do with funding. We don't receive money from the state. There are certain grants that come along every once in a while, but we generate our own funds here at home through sales tax and property tax primarily. And so through that, that comes to us and to our coffers. In the finance night, you'll learn more about our different financial structures and revenue streams. But with this revenue and our ability to generate our own revenue, the state has said, we won't give you money, but at the same time, we won't set a lot of parameters on top of you for how you're going to run your cities. Time to time, different issues come up. If you watch next door, it'll be interesting to see how the legislature treats the red light cameras issue that you see in Sugar Land and you dealt with in Houston a number of years back. That's one to where that occasionally pops up as a political issue. But for the most part, a lot of the cities are provided quite a bit of, as far as flexibility with our different laws and the like, because of the fact that the states realize since they don't provide us funding, they really try to stay out of our business and let us run our cities as we need to. I want to talk a little bit about, well, actually, let me go back. I want to mention just something about cities. Again, going back to when I was talking about as far as when we go to elementary schools and kind of what do cities do, what does a city provide? We are really, and this is something we talk about often, especially amongst the department directors, myself, and the assistant city managers, is we're a service-based organization. We don't make anything. It's one to where, now we do produce water, we take care of wastewater, but these are all services that we're providing our citizens. We manage contracts, quite a few contracts for different services. We provide fire and police and public safety protection. Of course, your streets and drainage and your sidewalks are things that we maintain and take care of. Although most, occasionally there's extensions to deal with the connectivity between subdivisions, but most new streets are built by the developers. We provide, of course, parks, recreational opportunities in our community, and then a lot of the things we deal with as far as planning, code enforcement, inspections. These are the different services that we provide in order to make sure that we have a safe, vibrant community. Now, one of the things, though, especially as city manager and assistant city manager and the department directors, really we stress is we are also community partners. We work with the MUDs to be able to provide, as far as especially the water issue that we've dealt with in relation to the subsidence district. We have a recent great example of where we partnered with the MUDs in order for a future trail that will be built over in the Vicksburg neighborhood that will finally connect that area to the Kitty Hollow Park. We look for opportunities with groups like Access Health to have, how can we reach out to our youth here in the community and make sure that they get immunization shots before going to schools? What can we do to, recently with Missouri City Green, to work with them for recycling efforts in the community. So we're also, while it may not be something we directly provide or have funding to be able to go towards, we look to see how can we, using the resources we have, assist our community groups and organizations out there to be able to provide the services they need to the same group of citizens that we're providing services to. Your city council is made up of 7 members, led by Mayor Alan Owen and Mayor Pro Tem Jerry Wyatt. It's one to where you have your other members, and let me see what we got. There we go. Councilmember Floyd Emery was here earlier, representing District D. You have with also, to kind of just go down the list, Yolanda Ford is one of our most recent council members. She represents District A. District B is represented by Don Smith, who has been around, I think, on the city council since at least the 90s. And then you have, let's see, who did I miss as far as districts? Oh, Robin Ellicat, representing District C, over on kind of our west side of our district. We have 2 at-large seats, one of which is the Mayor Pro Tem, and it's not necessarily the Mayor Pro Tem. I'll explain the Mayor Pro Tem position in just a little bit. But Jerry Wyatt serves one, and he's also been a council member, I think, since the 80s. And then Danny Wynn is the other at-large council member that serves on the city council. It's one to where the question was brought up about districts and how are districts divided, how are they built, and one of the things, every 10 years after the census is done, we then have to spend time redistricting. And you recently may have noticed it or may have seen something about it back in 2012. So you had the census that was completed in 2010, got information in 2011, and then we take that data and we start trying to figure out then what are the district lines going to be for our council members. And it's one, because we have 4 districts, it was one to where you looked at to see, demographic-wise, do each of the districts have somewhat the same makeup so that you aren't really trying to stick any one particular, say, ethnicity or group into an area? Is it one to where are the district lines kind of broken up geographically so they make sense? So we don't have things like gerrymandering that you sometimes see or the like. And is it one to where kind of for distance-wise and population size, are they the same? And so based upon that type of information, and really, I mean, looking at it from a statistical point of view, having attorneys based in Austin involved in the process to really examine it and make sure that everything was good, we started to build the lines for where the districts were, and not trying to deviate too much from where previous districts. So lines shifted, and really the council did an outstanding job. We kind of put it in the hands of the 4 district members to say, the mayor said, you 4 work with the city attorney's office and see what kind of lines we can put together. And so they did a great job. There was really, I mean, no arguments amongst themselves. Where were the natural fits? And then making sure that then with those natural fits that you had, that the population sizes, the demographics and everything matched and made sure that it didn't look like anything was, we were stacking the deck one way or the other. And so with it, it came out where we then send that information to the Department of Justice. They review it, blessed it, and then send it back to the council, and council then takes it and says, okay, these are the new district lines, and those went into effect. So that's where, you know, that's the sausage making of districts. It's one to where it's, you know, there was actually not a lot of backroom deals. There was no cigars or anything like that. It was one to where it was just, it really was trying to figure out where were some of the natural lines. For example, District B and District D, you know, it was one to where as they started to look at, you know, these 2 areas here about, especially right in here, where was the fit? And it became one of where using, you know, certain streets to kind of cut through, making sure that, you know, you didn't divide, neighborhoods where possible, parks were kind of kept in together, you didn't split parks, and so, and that became really the methodology of it. And it was one to where the Department of Justice got our first draft of it, and blessed it and sent it back to us. So any questions about districts? You know, this one was actually surprisingly short. It took probably, I think, about 2 months. It can take up to 6 sometimes. Next slide, Stacy. Role of the mayor. So I mentioned Alan Owen earlier. Alan Owen has been mayor here since at least the 80s, has been on council and planning and zoning before that. It's one to where the role of the mayor, as spelled out in the city charter, is he is the official head of the city. It is one to where he is the chief elected official. He chairs the council meetings. And so anytime a council meeting is to be had, it is the role of the mayor to chair those meetings and to or know what's going on. And it's, you know, it's for those who chair different, you know, committees or boards or even, you know how difficult sometimes that is. You're trying to participate, which he has the full right to. He has the full right to vote in council meetings, and so he's trying to, participate and give his opinion, but also make sure that other council members are able to really give their opinions and have a discussion and kind of stay within the topic. His other roles are also to kind of lead the council and making sure that they're an effective team. He is the chairman. His role is to be leader as well. And with that also, there is authority, he has authority to sign all ordinances and resolutions on behalf of the city. During times of emergency, it changes a little bit to where he is essentially the go-between for the county and the governor's office. While we as staff are really doing a lot of the work, at the same time the mayor is seen as the main person there to be working with either the governor's office or with the county judge's office. And usually at that time, though, and we'll talk a little bit about in just a second about kind of the role of staff versus council, it is one to where, the work is being done by the staff, but a lot of the, discussion or the figurehead role is being served by the mayor. The role of the city council is one to where, they are to participate in council meetings and be able to provide direction for policies and procedures. They participate in strategic planning, and some of this is done through things like council retreats. They'll have one, in fact, in February, where they'll come together, spend a day and a half as far as talking about what is the direction and future of Missouri City. We have an interesting kind of 2014 is a great year for us in that we have a comprehensive plan that is in need of review. We try every 5 years to redo the comprehensive plan. That falls into 2015 being the year that a new comprehensive plan needs to be done. And so as we move towards 2014, and though it's just January, for us we're already looking out towards December. And it's really we need to start setting the stage for what is going to be the direction for the next 5 years, if not 10, 20, 30 years of this community, and pressing the council to be able to kind of provide that direction and guidance to us. And so they'll have a retreat in February where they'll get the process started to really trying to determine what is their direction. What do they see for Missouri City come 2040, say, for example. Yes, ma'am.
Such as, can you give us an example of what you mean by how they see, what do they see for the community factors down the road?
So one of the things, they did this back in 2002. They set forth saying, here's where we see 10 years down, 2012, for where we want for Missouri City. And they started talking about economic development. And at that time, remember, the city was still pretty much a bedroom community. A lot of things have been, over the years, have been kind of voted down by city council, or else really hadn't been able to move forward in regards, especially industrial development or the like. And so the city council started to tell themselves, and the city and the community, this is the direction we want to go. Commuter rail has been another item that has been one over the past 10 years, 15 years, where they say, we want to get more involved with Metro. We want to see more what we can do about commuter rail. And because of the length of time a lot of these projects take, they start to set the stage for that in discussions now. And then come 10 years, come 20 years, you're able to see progress that's been made on those. For a lot of the, especially the big things, Fort Bend Toll Road is one to where we kind of have as a virgin territory right now, with very little there except for some towers. But it is one to where, what is your vision for how that builds out? Because it's one to where it won't build out overnight, and it'll build out. If we really don't have a plan, it could build out in the next 10 years and be whatever the market dictates. Or council can say, this is the vision and dream we have for Fort Bend Toll Road, for example. And these are the type of things then we as staff have to take and figure out, how do we start making that vision come true? And sometimes that vision takes a while. You have to be patient on. Sometimes it's things that we didn't even know that they really cared about. And we need to start changing some of our own either policies or ordinances in order to meet kind of the direction that they want to take things. So I hope that kind of explains it. Okay. And so it's one to where, this is a big thing for them. And like I said, the comp plan review is a big thing for us as a city, because not only after they set the direction, later this year and into 2015, we then start to gather up big groups of citizens, such as yourselves, and you will be probably tapped on the shoulder and said, hey, we'd like you to participate in saying, this is kind of the goal, that direction that the council has set for the city. Where do you see in some of these big areas, commuter rail, or at least, being able to be linked to Houston or some of these other issues? What are your thoughts on it? What are the ways that, some of the different things, whether it be kind of quality of life issues or the like, what are the things that you want to add, and start to put that together so that we can then develop that comp plan for the next 5 years. So we then have an action plan to go with in order for really the direction of the city with our budgets, with our capital improvement plan, and a number of things that you'll find out about during the course. Boards and commissions. Now, some of y'all mentioned, I think some of y'all may have been on board. Well, I know Thomasine's on board and commission. She showed me the picture just a minute ago. Our boards and commissions, the council utilizes citizen groups to say, we need input. It's one to where they take some of the big decisions and policy decisions and trying to come up with the answers to, but quite often, they need advice and input from citizens who kind of specialize in the area or are very interested in the area in some of these different functions to be able to give their advice back to the council. And with these, you see some of our boards and commissions we have. Planning and Zoning Commission is one of our major ones. They decide on give recommendations on zoning issues. They also approve all plats and as far as subdivision plans that come through the city. And so it's one to where they actually have legislative authority through that power for plat review. But it's one to which often they give them recommendations for council's consideration, often regarding planning or zoning issues. Let's see, what do we have? Parks Board. Whether it be programs that the Parks and Recreation Department offers, or whether it be just direction for some of the future facilities or needs or even master plan work, the Parks Board is giving input to that on a monthly basis. You have other groups like we have as far as our Community Development Advisory Committee. We receive Community Development Block Grant funds from Housing and Urban Development Department of the U.S. And so with those funds, we use a citizen group called our Community Development Advisory Committee to be able to give recommendations for how those funds should be spent. And then they give that recommendation up to the council, and the council then approves that budget for how those funds are then divvied out to the community. You have the Mayor's Youth Commission. This is a really neat one because this is a group of our high school students and junior high students who volunteer their time to be able to come out in the community. You'll often see them at a lot of our special events and festivals. They're good free labor. They just don't realize it yet. And it's one to where it gives them, it's really great watching these kids in action because they didn't even know that they loved being volunteers until they started to do it. And it's one to where we put you'd think after, 3 or 4 times they get a clue that, we're just using for free labor. But they love doing it and they show up every time. And we are ecstatic that some of our best and brightest of our future that show up and participate and love their community. And then you have some groups on there. An interesting one is our TERS board. And as I mentioned, Thomasine is a member of our TERS board, and that's Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone. And we have 4 tax increment reinvestment zones here in Missouri City. And when we do economic development, we'll probably talk a little bit more in detail about these. But these are different zones and districts that we've created throughout the city to help finance some improvements in there. Most of them have been developer-driven. The ones that are down in the Vicksburg area and Siena area especially are ones that we created in addition to working with the developers in order to fund some of the improvements that the developer have there. And I say we fund. What in actuality happens is, and I'm going to do just a quick one on this one. The tax increment reinvestment zone essentially takes whatever was that bare piece of land. And so whatever that value was, we still, as the city, get that property tax off of what that bare piece of land's value was. But then, of course, as homes are built or new development goes in, there is a increase in that property value. And so then you take that increase in that property value and you use that to pay for debt that was associated with public improvements that were done in that zone. And so the public improvements may be streets, could be drainage, it could be sidewalks, those type of public improvements that were done in order to make that happen, for that development to occur. We then use that increment to be able to finance the debt that's associated with it. And so you see that in Vicksburg and the Siena area in particular.
So the undeveloped areas of Siena, are they considered tourist zones? Are they getting money from the developers on that?
So the undeveloped area that we have of Siena still is the part that's south. What we traditionally have called Siena South. Y'all may have seen even this week where Toll Brothers has come out and said that they're going to be the builders in that area. No, because that's outside the city limits. We don't receive any taxes on that at all. So it's one to which that's being done, funded through the MUDs that are associated with that development.
So the property tax that Hillwood paid, that would now be Toll paying, the property tax on owning that land goes where?
That goes into the county. Yeah. It's one where it's, if you're in the ETJ, and you brought up the ETJ earlier, the extraterritorial jurisdiction, we don't collect property taxes. The only real regulation that we have over the ETJ is in relationship to really signage. And just ETJ, just real quick, because I know we've thrown that around, and for those who live there have kind of heard it. In cities, we have our city limits. So these are those who live within the city limits, you are citizens of Missouri City. But for our growth purposes, the state allows us to have areas that we have, really that we've kind of have taken in, but we don't provide full control over, but we're able to, really as far as controlling maybe services that go out there. And so a lot of that's in what you're known as your ETJ. So our work with Siena, for example, is one where there's really a development agreement that was done between the city and in order for us to say the MUDs could be developed out there, and ultimately what the full annexation plan for that area might be, and what kind of development's allowed because of the MUDs that we're allowing to be built out in that area. But we don't capture property tax from what's in the ETJ. We only capture property tax from what is inside the city limits. So, does that make sense?
Makes sense. I'm just trying to understand my role as a citizen.
Yeah.
I'm not contributing, but I'm part of the citizen of the name. So there's that little rift between the people who are living here paying into the tax structure versus me who aren't. But I'm still a Missouri City on my zip code and my name, so it's kind of hard to be.
Yeah, and it's one to where the zip codes are often determined by, well, they're determined by the postal authority. So it's one to where some people even have Missouri City zip codes that live in Houston. But it's one to where because of the zip code, you know, that they don't care about city limits at the postal authority. What they're interested in is what are the geographic areas that make sense for them and the amount of numbers for the determination of the zip code. So we run into that often where, you know, Missouri City zip code covers, you know, or zip codes, I should say, covers much of the area outside of Missouri City, but it's one of which that's done by the postal authority as a way of them saying this, you know, they could really probably even care less about what the name of the city is on it. They just want to know what that code is, that with that geographic area and the population size that goes in there.
So can I rephrase my question and say, from the city manager's point of view, do I live in Missouri City?
No. You live, it's one to where we're often talking about the Missouri City community, of which kind of Siena and a lot of those, we want to make people feel like they're really part of a community. But as far as official citizen of Missouri City, if you live in the ETJ, the answer is no.
Is it a matter of time before the area is annexed?
It is.
Forward planning?
Exactly. And we'll probably go into this a little bit more in regards to the kind of development services night. But we have, as we look at MUDs, have to look at when we annex them, the state law states that we then take on the tax burden that's associated with that MUD. And so we never want to annex a MUD or an area into the city limits where it's going to cause an adverse impact on our current citizens' tax rate. So we have to look at that debt load and that tax rate and make sure that if at the time we bring them in, it doesn't cause a difficulty for you. that all of a sudden you have to now, in paying for debt that's associated with the mud, having to then figure, we have to increase your taxes to be able to do that. So for like the Sienna area, we look at out in the like 2027, 2029 time frame has kind of been the estimates we've had on annexation. Yes, ma'am.
The Community Development Advisory Committee, how do the citizens are on that committee, right? Not just the boards, not just city council?
You have 2 council members that serve on that committee, or no, I take it back, 3 council members that serve on the committee, and then 4, I want to say, 4 members that are Community Development Advisory Committee?
I think we have 3 council members.
3, but then 4 citizens?
4 citizens.
4 citizens.
2 from District A, 2 from District B. So how are the citizens, they're chosen by the council?
They're selected by the council to serve on that. And usually at the time where it comes up for appointments, Maria, who y'all will meet later on tonight, will do a press release or try to get information out to say, we're seeking, members for those committees. Oh, hit the ICMA live video. There's, I'm going to have a little video show. We're now going to switch over to kind of what is the role of the city manager, what's the job that he or she provides to the community. And the International City County Management Association has a campaign that's been going on now for a couple of years called Life Well Run. And with the Life Well Run video, they've put together really as far as just kind of the visuals and just a real quick thing as far as synopsis of what does your city management services provide you. And so if y'all don't mind, I'm going to go ahead.
There are things we rarely think about. Little morning rituals. A light to find our way through the dark. A bike trail just down the road. An easy commute. Having a great place to work. But all across America, there are people thinking about those details every day, crafting plans and making the decisions that transform good communities into great ones. They're our professional city and county managers. They know that characteristics like civic engagement, quality housing, vibrant neighborhoods, and solid infrastructure allow business to thrive. In fact, nearly 2/3 of Moody's AAA bond-rated cities are run by a professional manager. From exciting development projects, to curbside recycling programs, to the water for your shower, city and county managers are responsible for the things that help communities thrive. They make tomorrow happen, partnering with elected officials to turn big policy ideas into great achievements.
When we're done making policy, our city manager is focused on turning that into reality.
They're not trying to take on the role of being politicians, but they're the folks that have to, in the end, implement and deliver.
The ability of the manager to help maintain and manage this city in the best possible way is crucial.
While most of us are busy running our lives, professional managers run the communities where we live our lives. So we can all have a place that we're proud to call home. Professional city, town, and county management. It's life well run.
The profession of the city manager is, and oftentimes when we go talk to schools and the like, they have no clue that there's a city manager, and even a lot of adult groups have no clue there's a city manager, and that's okay. Most of the times we as city managers, we like to be behind the scenes. As I told our youth commission one time when they said, well, I've never heard of you, we're more like ninjas, and we like to be that way. And so it's one to wear, but our profession is relatively a new profession in regards to this nation and the world. We've had the city manager profession has been in the United States and really for about maybe 100 years. It came about in Virginia.
A bike trail.
Here, you got the as y'all get that back up again. It came about back in Virginia over, I think it was maybe about 103 years ago. And it was the result of what we had seen repeatedly, not only with this nation, but with really the world since really the time of the Pharaoh. We've always had a system up until the city manager system in the really kind of discussion late 1880s, early 1900s of a system of where the person at the top got to then, as the new person at the top came on board, whether it be the Pharaoh, whether it be your mayor, whether it be the president, they then selected, these are the people who are going to be in charge. Sometimes, as far as whether or not they had the talents or skills for it mattered, sometimes it didn't. And what we saw especially in the late 1880s, 1890s here in this country was cities that were not functioning. You can think back to as far as either your history or even to maybe what you've read. You saw streets in some of your major cities filled with, as far as just waste. You had, as far as animal slaughter houses that were being done to where that was making people sick. It was just, the whole thing, especially in regards to public safety, was failing in our nations. And that's where Woodrow Wilson, who is really the father of public administration, back before he was president, came up with the idea of really we need to have some way of separating politics from administration. We need a way of being able to say there's politics and there's policy decision, but then there's also, as far as what we need to recognize, our technical skills, and then the ability for people who are qualified and talented to be able to do the job of moving forward the programs and policies of the political side versus the cronyism, which this country had been having for, well, really almost since the founding. So it's one to where you then had this shift, and it became really then the progressive movement that you then see that continues to this day, of where you have a council manager form of government. You have a city council that provides, this is our policy, this is our direction. We are approving the laws of this city. And then you have an administration that is myself and my staff that then moves forward with the implementation of that. And it moves forward with the implementation relatively free of the politics. I mean, there's always politics and there's always, that you have to be able to kind of manage. But it's one to where the guy who's down there working on the streets, the police officer who's patrolling the neighborhood, that man or woman doesn't care about what the politics are. They're making sure that they have the resources they need, and that's really our job, make sure they have the resources they need in order to get the job done and to treat everyone fairly and equally throughout the community. And so with that, you've then began to see, as far as the cities, and especially with the growth that we've had in our cities over this past really, 100 years, to where it is a place where people feel safe. It's one to where there is a feeling, their ability to be able to have services that are needed and that are desired by your community. So it's one to where you had this transition. Our office, the role of the city manager is, it's one to where myself, and a little bit about myself, this is, like I said earlier, I've been city manager here for a little over 2 years. Before that, I've been city manager in 2 other cities here in the state, an assistant city manager, and also working my way through other departments or other organizations in other cities. It's one to which I am a graduate of Texas A&M for my bachelor's, and then I got a master's in public administration from Texas Tech University, which is really the basis for the technical skills that I have with me today. And so through the experience and education, I've been able to kind of progress my way through multiple cities, providing for them really the best management services that I can provide, and working with city councils to get the best out of them. We have 2 assistant city managers that serve our city. We have Bill Atkinson, who has been, Bill, how long have you been here? Why don't you tell a little bit about yourself? That way I don't have to talk too much about the Arkansas Razorbacks or stuff like that.
Do you mind if I talk about them? No. I've been in city management. It'll be 20 years in February, actually. And I was a city manager in Oklahoma, in a small community. I started there when I was 24, coming out with a master's degree like Ed did in public administration. And I then came to Texas, and I was a city manager of a suburb of Dallas for 8 years. And I've been here going on 7 years, so I'm reaching 20 years in city management. And I don't know if you want us to go further, if you want to talk more about our division of how.
And Scott Cohen, we'll introduce Scott, and then we'll talk a little bit about how our different, how we have divided up the functions of the organization.
I'm Scott Elmer. I know of several of y'all. I've got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Northeast Louisiana. I've got a civil engineering degree from University of Houston. I'm a licensed professional engineer here in the state of Texas, and currently I hold position of city engineer, director of public works, and assistant city manager.
So flip to the next slide, if you don't mind. And so the role of the city manager, ultimately, as Harry Truman had on his desk, the buck stops here. That's in essence where, while I don't have the sign on my desk, the city council does know that, and frequently calls and makes sure that I understand it, of which we have a good council. I'm not trying to, but as everyone who has a supervisor knows, it's one to where they have expectations of you and of the community and things that you worked hard to try to meet. And so it's one to where ultimately a city manager is my responsibility for the entire organization. It's one to where I directly oversee the 2 assistant city managers, as was made mention of. Also the police department and fire department report directly to me, and the economic development function of the city. And so it's one to where, in order to be for the kind of the division of labor and to be able to kind of, division of command, it's my span I've kind of have created to there. Now we occasionally do reorganizing, and I'll take something from here or take something from there and move something there or move something to Scott or move something to Bill. But it's one to where ultimately I kind of have my fingers in everything, but my main span is going to be in regards to police, fire, and these 2 assistant city managers who are overseeing their individual divisions and departments. And so it's one to where, and it's like the question Karen asked about, how does the role of the city manager and then the 2 assistant city managers work? It's really about span of control and about then what's the amount of people that I can supervise and have direct control over as a supervisor and be able to then stay on top of their different issues. So I've got, as far as especially the public safety side, and then these 2 guys, and then they report back to me in their different areas. And if y'all don't mind talking a little bit about the different functions that report to you.
I oversee the golf course and city center, as well as parks department, and then finance. And we have divisions that of Stacy, which is communications, reports to me, our human resources department, and IT, and forgot somebody else. But anyway, I have those areas, finance I think I mentioned. So anyway, those areas.
My area of responsibility at the city is the external services side of the city. Public Works Department and the Development Services, which includes everything from planning and zoning type operations to animal control, street repairs, drainage, and all that stuff. And it's kind of a natural since I started at Missouri City as a co-op student in 1995 out there.
And so it's one to where, and you 2 don't go anywhere, I mean, we all can stay, if I'm hanging out up here, y'all can as well. It's one to where, yes, sir.
Okay, so for example, Quail Valley Utility District, who do they report?
Quail Valley Utility District reports to the Quail Valley Utility District Board of Directors. Now, what we have, though, is in a relationship with Quail Valley Utility District, and because of the subsidence district, their executive director is on the board with Scott, which the city set up. So it's, while they are autonomous in relation to the utility district, because they buy water from us or work with us in regards to making sure that they are in compliance with the subsidence ground rules. It's one to where they work with the city. So I talked earlier about collaborations, really, so there's a lot of collaborations there. There's some amount of, as far as regulation that we have on top of them, only because of the regulation on top of us, because of the groundwater rules that we have in this county.
Is there anywhere like an org chart that shows all these spider webs that are
No, that would be an interesting one to show. We do have one, of course, of the departments in the city, but the ones with the different organizations, it's that very much thing, like you said, kind of a web that's there. But yeah, we've never really mapped that out.
So would that be the same with the Sienna Muds? They would report to Scott and the lids, the lids and the Sienna Muds would report to Scott?
No, because what they're doing is, now what they're, because even the Quail Valley Utility District isn't reporting to Scott. What they're reporting, they are members of the board, yes. And so they'll have representation on the board. Theirs is Carl, isn't it?
So do the Sienna Muds have representation on that board?
Yes. Carl Bowles, who is he chair? Yeah, oh, president, that's right. Serves on the board with Morris Mitchell from Quail Valley Utility District.
For point of reference, my subdivision, we're not part of one, so we're even further down. But I know I'm speaking on behalf of my Sienna community.
Yeah, your Sienna brothers and sisters down there.
They have muds, we're on the water.
So it's, we have interesting jobs. It's one to where our days are never the same, and each hour differs. We're essentially jacks of all trades and masters of none. It's interestingly enough, the city manager profession started off, especially using engineers, because of a lot of the issues about inspections for all types of different things, and the amount of just kind of, straight line thinking that was needed from the engineering field. As it has progressed, it has become one of its own profession, but it is one of which, the amount of different issues and things we have to talk about and deal with is varied and multiple throughout the day. It's one to where I was thinking about yesterday, I was having to engage in a discussion about landfills and, even though the city doesn't own and operate a landfill, but just upon what knowledge I had about landfills and how do those operate and about recycling, and then have to shift to talk about staff training and really development of our supervisors, to then having to shift to talk about icy weather conditions and what are some of the things we're doing to prepare for those, to then shifting to dealing with a number of other topics throughout the day. And so it's one to where each day is new and bright and will bring a challenge that we did not see, but that's the reason we have great staff that works for us, and our job is to make sure, it's just like you have the wheel. We're the spoke in the middle, making sure that it doesn't come unraveled and go spiraling off. And so. Yes, ma'am.
The more you say, the more I'm thinking, what does the mayor do?
He looks pretty. And see, that's often, that's the common kind of misconception is, the mayor until, a lot of y'all just kind of recently retired. Was there like some big wave that hit for retirement? The mayor until last year was actually an employee of Wells Fargo. And so now he's retired, although Mayor Owen's been different than some of the other mayors I've had in the past because he really is hands-off. He wants to know some of the different things going on, and he'll call and say, I saw this or I saw that, but he's not up here in the offices giving directions or anything like that. His job really is to be the figurehead for the city, as most are for council manager forms of government, with the exception of, except for your strong mayor forms like Houston and then Stafford. But it's one to where their role, they have their own jobs that they need to be making money at in order to provide for their families. And their role really is to be kind of the board of directors. That's really, and it can be seen as simple as that. The council is the board of directors for the organization, as I am the chief executive officer for the organization. And so if you kind of think of it in those terms, you can see where they're giving direction and approving policy for the city, but they're expecting staff to go forth and make that happen. Yes. he is the PR guy for the city. It's one to wear often at events, and well, there's Stacy. Stacy will prep him and put him out front and make sure he looks good. State of the City we'll be doing, I guess, in June, and so it's one to wear. She'll get him all, snazzy and dressed up and make sure that she can't control everything that comes out of his mouth, but she does her best to make sure that he has a script.
You were hired by city council, is that correct?
That is correct.
These gentlemen are hired by you?
Correct.
But you serve at the pleasure of the mayor and city council?
That is right.
So they hired you, if they were dissatisfied, they would be able to fire you, but you have control over all the other city employees?
That's right. There's 3 employees that the city council actually hires. There's the city manager position. There is the city secretary position, Maria Gonzalez, who you'll meet in a minute, the city secretary, and then there's the city attorney, Caroline Kelly, who you'll meet on the night of legal. And so we are the direct reports of the city council. But then everybody underneath us, whether it be assistant city managers, police chief, fire chiefs, economic development directors, all employees, in essence, report to me, with the exception of the city secretary staff and the city attorney staff.
You give these gentlemen authority over certain departments, where they have hired fire authority also, is that correct?
That is correct.
So if there was a change in the mayor, is your job at risk, or do you have a contract of certain term of labor?
I have a contract, but it's not for a term. It's one to where it would be the majority of the council. So the mayor, if the mayor position shifts or the like, that's not going to concern me for my job future. Now, if there were 4 shifts where all of a sudden you have 4 council members that say, we don't like the city manager, then my job's at risk. And so it's always going to be a majority of the council. So the mayor doesn't have any special power or authority any more than the other council members. It's, as Carl talked about, he really is, it's kind of a PR guy. He is he is the chairman of the council. So he's top of the council, but it's one to where he doesn't have any more authority to say, you're going to do this, that, or the other than the other council members. It always takes a majority of at least 4 of the council members to say, this is our new direction or policy.
But they can do that at any time?
Yeah, every other week, yeah, I can be fired. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't have any, every other week, and we'll often joke about the fact, every other week, city manager, essentially, it's, if they want to say, pull them aside and say, yeah, we don't like you anymore. That's an option.
One final question, we got another before. Which gentleman was over at the golf course? And isn't there a special board that is governing?
Local government corporation that was developed as basically a governing mechanism at the time that gives a little bit greater flexibility than if it were a city department. And the LGC board is actually the city council.
But that decreases any control that you have over that, is that correct? So they don't.
Day-to-day operational is the golf professional, the general manager reports to me. And they runs it and I oversee him.
But all of the council members are actually on that board of that special corporation.
Yes, but it's still similar to a board of directors, so they can set fees or parameters on fees, but it's one to where at the end of the day, we're bringing forth the recommendations for the fees. But the operations over there are done by the staff and free of any, as far as interference from the LGC board, which is the city council.
The final hiring and firing oversight on that.
I oversee there's a general manager and golf professional that oversees the employees of that, the day-to-day operations, and I oversee his activities and the policies and make sure they're enforced.
And he reports to you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just kind of wondering, I might have missed it if you said it. Where does the school board fall into all of this?
You know what? I did miss it because when we were talking earlier about your local government units, that's one I should have mentioned. I mentioned Houston Community College, but another local government unit you have is the school board. And the school board has the same level, well, they are independent of themselves. So in fact, there is a number of There's even rules in state laws that say cities can't dictate this to school boards. It's like we could to, say, for planning purposes or other things like that. School wants to build a school in a certain spot and is able to get the utilities for it. It's one to where our zoning, they can override our zoning. They answer to you. And me as a voter, but yeah, but they are, the school district, the school board has the same, almost, if you kind of think of it as ranks and stuff, they almost kind of have the same rank as a city council. So yeah, the mayor can't tell the school board what to do any more than the school board can tell the council. They each act independently of each other. Now, we have a great relationship, so it's not one to where we're kind of adversaries or always kind of eyeballing each other. It's one to where the superintendent is my peer, and I work well with him, and the school board works well with the council. You'd start with the school district with their administration. It's just as the school superintendent is in essence kind of my peer, so he's the city manager for the school district, and it's one where we keep coordinating and the like. But if you've got a school issue or the like, you go kind of you take the track through the school system to work on their issues.
They can override the zoning commission?
If they want to locate a school in an area that, now oftentimes, they're going to make decisions based upon, what's logical and where they want to go, but they don't pay impact fees. They don't, it's one to where we're kind of really talking to them about working with them on solid waste issues, but, there's a certain amount of autonomy that they have. So, like I said, thankfully, it's been a pretty good relationship so far. Hopefully it will continue that way. What slide am I currently on? All right. We've kind of touched upon a lot of these issues already. I'll go to the next one. Kind of one that I really want to touch upon a little bit more is my role with the council. And so it was some great questions about so the council is my boss. I've got 7 bosses, of which I try to get them to speak with one voice. It's a very difficult thing, but it is one to where often by kind of spending time with them and working with them, and Maria's smiling because she has to do the exact same thing, we can get there and get to where what is it they want to achieve, what do they want to do, and get them to speak with that one voice, or at least a majority, but usually they're really good about having unanimous votes. And these are the type of things we want to do. Oftentimes they'll come forward and, one of them will have kind of a stray hair and say, what we ought to do? We ought to go do this, or we ought to go do that. And oftentimes we'll talk to them and say, well, what is it you're trying to achieve? What do you want to really, what is your end goal with this? And then talk about, okay, well, a lot of these things where, they feel this ordinance is too harsh, or they don't feel that we're really doing enough on this ordinance, where that's your opinion. Okay, let's work through that. And we get enough out of them to really be able to take that to then say, let's take this to the council and have the discussion with the council. So you're getting able to then help that council member kind of flesh out their opinion a little bit more, understand maybe the reality of the situation, so that they can then talk to the rest of the city council about what is it they want to achieve. And sometimes the rest of the council says, yeah, we get you what you're trying to do, and they'll bite into it. And sometimes it falls flat, and they say, you know what? You're wrong, and the rest of us don't agree. And so it happens both ways, but it is one to where you try to get the council members to understand it takes the action of the council to be able to change kind of things, not the one council member of themselves. And a city manager and even city secretary can attest to, that's a big part of our job. Is not hand-holding. I don't want to try to simplify it and make them sound, it really is trying to say, let's figure out what your dream is, what are you trying to achieve, and see what we can do either about getting you there, or either getting the rest of the council on board, or at least giving their opinion on it. One of the tasks, well, I tell you what I'm going to do. Because of time and the fact I still want to do a mock council meeting afterwards, and also have an opportunity to have Maria talk to you. I have an exercise that I'm going to give y'all. Normally what I do with the groups is say, let's kind of go through this, and I'd read you the exercise and then the answer. But I'm going to trust you, men and women, I'm going to give it to you, both the answers and the questions, and have y'all go through it kind of on your own. And it really does, this exercise in particular, I do, so Scott's got it over there. This is a great exercise in that it is one to where it really talks about the complexities of being city manager and dealing with a lot of the political stuff, and then also trying to really figure out what is it that we need to be doing as a city. And with this one in particular, there's the front and back one is the story. And then the answer is the stapled one. And this one's an example of one to where you have a political campaign, and this one kind of goes towards your question about mayors. So you got a political campaign about mayors, and one mayor blasts the city as being just inefficient and having all kinds of problems, especially with certain, and they spell out, here are the problems that the city has. And that person gets elected mayor, and now is expected to do something about the very things that they said were problems with the city. And so your job as city manager is to then figure out what to do with it. And so with that, then you go through there, you kind of think about it, and like I said, this one, and this comes from the International City County Management Association. Then there is as far as the choose an approach, gives some different examples of how to handle that situation of where you have a new mayor with a new agenda, and pressing that agenda, and how do you handle that? And so oftentimes we kind of get in that situation where, it's not a sea change, it's not 4 people in, and you got to figure out, it's one person, and figuring out how to kind of protect the integrity of your operations while being able to address the concerns that that newly elected official has. So, like I said, either afterwards tonight while you're shivering and you can't go to sleep because it's so cold, or tomorrow morning because your work called and said, you know what, you're not going to work today because the roads are too icy, take a chance and read over these. Well, for you retired guys, y'all don't have any place to go anywhere. So, y'all aren't waiting for the call to say don't come into work. So read over those, and like I said, it really is a good example, and unfortunately, an all too real example for many city managers of just how do you take this the shift in political movement in your community and help that movement kind of be achieved, or at least be understood. So, with that, I'm going to turn it over now to Maria. And she's going to give a presentation, and then after Maria's done, like I said, we want to do just kind of a quick mock council meeting so you can understand some of the complexities of being a council member, being a city manager, being a city secretary, and city attorney. So I'm going to turn this over to you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm your city secretary. Today we're going to peek behind the curtains of my department, and we're going to walk through some of the things that a city secretary does. City secretary is not anybody's personal assistant. We don't walk anybody's dog. We don't pick up anybody's laundry. Do we have my presentation up yet? I make coffee just because I'm an employee of the city and I like to make coffee. City manager makes coffee. I do make coffee, but there's a lot of things that the city secretary does for municipal governments. My name is, just before I get started, I'm going to give you a little bit of information about myself. My name is Maria Gonzalez. I have been an employee of the city for about, it's going to be 8 years in August. Before I came to Missouri City, I was working for a nonprofit organization that was kind of bouncing around after college trying to find out who I was and what I wanted to do. And I've been with Missouri City for about 8 years now. And it wasn't until that I started working for Missouri City that I found my dream job. I love working for Missouri City. I love being Missouri City City Secretary, and I feel it's here that I found out who I was, where I'm going, and how I'm going to get there. So being a city secretary for Missouri City is my passion because it feels like here is when I was born. And just a little bit more, I graduated from the University of Houston. I have 2 degrees in marketing and management, but that TMRS behind my name means so much more to me than those 2 degrees, because that means that I'm a Texas registered municipal clerk. And it took me 6 years to get through it, and once I received that certification, it just kind of, it put me on a different level, because it's where they teach you about city government and your role as a clerk for cities. It's not on. Okay, this is my department. Just like Ed said, I report to the mayor and council. And my department is pretty much made up of well, right now we have a vacant position for the deputy city secretary, but we have a records management coordinator, we have an administrative assistant, and we also have a records management assistant. The city secretary remains the keeper of the archives, as we preserve, record, maintain, and preserve the history of our municipal government. What are the duties of the city secretary? Well, we're the custodian of municipal records. I am the records management coordinator, and I'm the Public Information Act officer. My department pretty much outlines everything as what we do pursuant to state law. The Texas Public Information Act states that everything that we do in our office, there are retention things for every piece of paper that flows through the city. There are documents that are permanent documents, there are documents that are temporary, and it's up to me and my records management coordinator to work with each department to determine which records we're going to keep forever for preserving the city history, and which records we're going to maintain pursuant to the Texas State Library, and how long we're going to keep them. The Texas Public Information Act states that you or anybody who would like to receive records or want any information that has to do with the city is my job and my obligation to you, the citizens, and anybody who wants any records, to give you what we have. That's why it's very important that everybody keeps documents in pursuant to state law, because if we keep them longer and somebody asks for that document that we were supposed to destroy, let's say, a year or 2 ago, but we still have it 10 years later, if you ask for that document then, I have to give it to you. Okay, this one, I wanted to ask you guys if that space looks familiar. Is anybody here, nobody's here has worked for Missouri City, correct? Okay, so nobody's been here. But take a look at this facility. There's an ARC, there's records, documents. What was that? Well, yes, this is actually our 3rd floor. This is what is on the 3rd floor. Right now we're on the 2nd floor of City Hall. And I have a prize for you. I didn't say that, but I brought a prize to whoever guessed that.
Well, I drive by it.
I was wondering if anybody was going to guess it, but here you go. Yes, this is actually the 3rd floor. These are our documents, and where staff is still, or my department is still looking through these documents to see which documents are permanent documents, because we do have a software called Questus where we maintain all of our permanent records and temporary records. But here, this is our 3rd floor. It's actually right above here, and yeah, this is our 3rd floor. This is what the 3rd floor. This is the area that's right behind the clock outside City Hall. Is it fireproof? I don't think it's fireproof. Okay, that we only have one records management assistant. So he pretty much, we do things. Another area that I wanted to show you is this is currently what our development services department looks like. So there's always records coming in. This is submittals that was submitted to our Development Services Department. We have first submittals, second submittals, and the only documents that I care about are the final submittals, because it's my job to maintain the city's history. So because there are the Development Services Department, they're very busy, and just whenever they have time, that's why it looks like this, but you know, every so often we go in there and we kind of help them out and we help them clean up. But because they're so busy and there's so many things going on in the city, it's hard for them and for us to keep up. But we do have one records management assistant who helps to scan documents into our software. But things come and things get moved, things get added, so it's very hard to stay updated. But if somebody were to come and ask for a plan in this area, I would have to go over there and try to find it. So that's why it's very important for us to stay on top. I saw your hand go up.
The question about security or fire security is a very good question. Are you scanning everything now? Producing everything to electronic record?
We're trying to get, there's a lot of, within each department, there's at least one person who tries to assist with scanning for documents within their department. But yeah, we're trying to get paperless, but it's a little hard. This is something that we need to work at every day. Just like things come, things take place every single day. So
My question was related to that. With everything that most of us do now, it's all electronic. So is there a desire and a long-range planning of the city to get out of paper?
that is my dream.
Into the electronic world, and with that, is there going to be longer records retention because the storage capacity is reduced so significantly?
Right. Yeah.
I'll add on to a little bit of Maria's thunder here, steal some of it. But we are trying to move a lot to paperless. For example, all the public infrastructure plans, a lot of the home plans, where we still get some people submitting paper copies. We're in public works area, we're all moving to a strict electronic on that. So everything comes in electronically, it's reviewed on software, the comments get sent back, and then the electronic copy gets sent to Maria. Trying to be good customer service. We still accept paper in a lot of cases because not everybody has the sophistication to produce electronic documents. So, but we are, in the future, I'm sure, going to be moving a lot more and taking some of the workload off of Maria where she can import a file instead of scanning everything on that.
Then records retention will get longer historical value instead of, her having to delete, I don't know.
Well, records retention, every document that passes through the city there's a retention period. Once something comes, once it's finalized, or even if it's a working document, like these submittals, we keep them on hand until it's administratively valuable, and then state law requires that we add a few months. So once we start moving towards more accepting things electronically, they still have to meet the retention period. And then after that, we have to meet with each department just to make sure that they're ready to get rid of it, because sometimes they're not.
The reason I'm asking is with this announcement of Toll Brothers buying the Hillwood thing, I'm only in Siena, Missouri City 7 years, but that 7 years hits, and I'm wondering, well, wait, when did this first get purchased? And if I wanted to try to research what was the plan, could I come to you and learn what was supposed to go on that didn't happen, or that's still going to, I don't know.
Right.
So I'm trying to understand the community that I'm moving into.
Okay. There are minutes. Minutes are a permanent city document. We cannot get rid of minutes, in addition to ordinances and resolutions and deeds and easements. Those are permanent city documents. Anything, and there might be others, but those are the ones that are off the top of my head that I can think of. But there are anything else, it's until it meets the retention period, and then sometimes we keep things longer. So
At your discretion?
at the discretion of the directors.
And I'll give you an example.
Go paperless. When you finally accomplish the goal of going paperless, do we sell all that paper and you accumulate it up there?
I think we recycle. We recycle.
I'll give you an example that might help you understand on your particular question. So, for example, the development agreement that spells out the terms and conditions of the annexation and agreement between the city and the developer, and the land plans in that agreement, all those kind of things, correct me if I'm wrong, are permanent documents. When they come in with construction plans, the construction plans for the streets and the water system and the drainage system and all are not necessarily permanent documents, but in general, much to Maria's regret, we like to keep those, even if it's electronic, because it helps us from an operational standpoint. When, I'm still pulling up, I've been here since '95, I'm pulling up plan sets from Fondren Park that were in 64 when we're trying to figure out how was this built, where's this sewer line running, is it under the road, is it here or there? So even though it may not be a permanent requirement to keep that, it helps us from an operational standpoint to keep some of those things. But Maria has to keep us from keeping everything like pack rats.
Well, I was here in the July Missouri City Council meeting and saw Hillwood give their nice flowing presentation of what they were going to do in Siena South.
Mhm.
But now they're no longer involved, so now if the Toll Brothers comes in with something new, and they don't do that for maybe another 5 years or 7 years from now, and suddenly they come in with a new plan, and someone might want to go and try to compare, maybe they bought a house in this time frame, and the real estate agent said, well, here's what Hillwood's going to do, and they looked at the city council meeting and saw the slides and everything, and they bought their house based on that. And now all of a sudden we wait maybe 5 or 7 years for Toll Brothers to do what they're going to do, and they go back and say, well, what was originally told to me when my real estate agent said buy here?
Mhm.
Is that record going to be available, or do we need to go grab that stuff now? And I mean, that, I'm saying more for the people living in
The development agreements we have spells out specifics on land use, specifics, on density, where non-residential versus residential is located. That development agreement also has a deviations clause, and it's either a minor amendment, like the trail's going to go on the east side of the road instead of the west side of the road as they develop. Things that you can't take that 30,000 foot level view and actually design to. But then anything significant has a modification where they would have to come back and modify that agreement through the council process, which all becomes part of the permanent records. Anything that hits council is a permanent record on that.
I'm just saying, I think that has historical value to someone who purchased property with the understanding that there might have been something going in there with a road or a bike path or a trail that might change with the...
Major deviations come back through council and would have to be voted on again.
And then there would be a city record of that
Correct.
for real estate agents.
Yes.
You have a published document retention document?
We do. We go by state law. Council adopted it. Yes. It's online. You can actually, council adopted that we abide by the Texas State Library Records Retention Schedule. So that's what we do. Anything that comes through City Hall, we make sure that we abide by that. And, sometimes we keep things a little longer, but as long as it helps staff out, then we're okay with that. Okay. Let's go ahead and continue the duties. I report to the mayor and city council. So I provide administrative services to the city council. So anything that they, as long as I'm not, walking anybody's dog, then as long as I have to do anything has to do with city business, I make sure that I'm there for them. The Texas Open Meetings Act, council has city council meetings. It's stated within our charter that council have 2 city council meetings each month, the first and third Monday at 7 o'clock. That's our regular city council meeting. So anything that has to do with council meeting and taking action, I make sure that we abide by the Texas Open Meetings Act, and it's posted. State law requires that we post all of our agendas 72 hours before the meeting date, and anything that we add items on there that would make decisions that would help staff, or we bring decisions before council for consideration, and they decide during the city council meeting whether or not they want to approve it or not. My department is also in charge of assembling the city council agenda packet. Any background information, the cover memo, the ordinances, we make sure they have all of the information they have beforehand in order for them to have make an educated decision the day of the city council meeting. I'm also, my department also, we make sure that council has all the information, and also the residents of Missouri City have all the information that has to do with the election. The city of Missouri City is going to have an election in May of this year, so there's everything that I do in my office has to do with state law, so everything that has to do with the election, I make sure that state law requires that we have, if the city has a website, which we do, all of our information is posted on the city's website, so if anybody has any questions, or you can call me directly. I take calls all the time. I love talking to people because it takes me out of my routine. So if you have any questions regarding anything in my department or elections, give me a call. I'm more than happy to talk to you. But on the city's website, there's just basic information about the filing date, when is the first day to accept applications for a place on the ballot, the last day when the election day is, the polling locations, all that information is on the web. And I actually brought, if anybody's interested or wants information about our election this year, what I prepare is important election dates, just so everybody can stay informed of the first filing date and, just information about it also has the election day on here, so if anybody wants it, I'd be more than happy to pass it out. Other things that we do in my department, I work with council and for the city board committees and commissions. We coordinate the recruitment, application, and appointment process for all of the boards, committees, and commissions that work with city council. They usually, all of our board members, they have 2-year terms, so it's for staggered years. So let's say we have 8 members on a board, committee, or commission. They're staggered. So positions, if you're an even number position 2, 4, 6, and 8, let's say your term would be up for even numbered years. And if you're an odd number, you have an odd number position on one of those boards, position 1, position 3, then your term would be up in odd number years. So this year it would be. So every year I work with council just to make sure I give them a list of everybody whose term is about to expire, and they make sure that they contact those individuals just to make sure that they're okay, that they want to continue, and if they're not, then we do have an application process. Anybody who's interested in serving on a board, there is an application on the city's website. So if you go to www.missouricitykx.gov, you can actually go to the city secretary area within the website, and there's an application process. You enter all your information, you hit submit, and it comes straight to me. Permits. 2 permits that I issue in my department are liquor license permits and solicitor's permits. Liquor license, anybody who opens a business, they want to sell alcohol, they run their application through my department, and we make sure that that area is a good area to hold for the city to issue a permit. We make there's 150-foot parameter where there shouldn't be any schools or daycares or things of that nature. And whenever I get an application to my department, I make sure that that area is good to go before I put my name on it. And also solicitor's application, I'm not sure if you're aware, but Missouri City, the city council passed an ordinance that states that if anybody wants to come door to door and sell anything in Missouri City, knock on your door, sell you this magazine or sell you whatever, they need to have a solicitor's permit so that we know who's coming to your house. They're not a criminal, they pass our process, and that once they do have a permit with our city, if somebody comes to your house and they don't have a City of Missouri City permit, something that has their picture and their name and saying that it was issued to them by the city, you need to call us. And we send our code enforcement out there to stop, because they should not be doing that, because council passed this ordinance to prevent anybody from going to your house to sell things.
Is that a city-issued badge with their picture and ID, or is it something?
No, it's city-issued.
All right, does that include religious solicitations at 6 o'clock Sunday morning?
Do they knock on your door?
Sorry?
Do they knock on your door?
Oh, you betcha.
I think those are actually exempted, aren't they, Maria? The religious groups?
There's a few that are exempt, and I think religious groups is one of them. But there's, let's say,
The speech issues start to come into play on that one.
There's also a fee for this, so there's some that are exempt, and I think religious groups are exempt completely, but there's other ones, like let's say if it's a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout, they want to sell cookies, they're exempt, but they still need to come through my office and we issue a permit for, let's say, their parent, not for the kids, but for the parents. And we just want to make sure that if they go to your house and they have, we want you to know that they came through the City of Missouri City, and there's also an expiration, I think it's 180 days.
Okay, so that means the little ice cream truck that's coming through needs to have a badge.
What do you mean?
The whoever's private company's trying to sell you security services.
Yes.
Phone services, those people don't have anything on them.
You need to call the city.
By the time code enforcement get out there, it's gonna be too late.
Well, yeah, and well, PD can catch them, if you will call a dispatch, try to call a non-emergency number.
Of course.
So, yeah, it'll be, the police officer can get out there and kind of.
And they have to have those badges. Oh, my
And a lot of people call that are aware of this, that the city passed this ordinance, and they're like, hey, Maria, these people came to my house and this is what they were selling, and I look through my records and I make sure if they didn't, have a permit, and if they don't, I send code enforcement out there to stop them.
Is the permit just for the company, like you said, the magazines, or is it for each person?
Each person.
Okay,
Okay, so a company comes, they submit their application, and let's say a company comes that says for alarms. And they put 18 people on that one. The umbrella is by company, but they can put however many people on that one permit.
Do a background check on each of them?
Well, we don't do a background check, but within our application, it states, are you a convicted felon? And if they select yes, then we deny that application.
They're not allowed to lie?
Well, that's an issue that I've been talking with our city attorneys, because there's a lot of other things involved. We can't do a background check on everybody because I don't really know what the issues are. I don't understand why we just can't do it on everybody, but there's issues involved, and I'm working with the city attorney's office to see if we can, that's something that we can do in my department.
If there's 18 people working for this company, 18 people need to have a badge.
That's correct.
I'm just wondering, are there any exempt groups on this list or religious organizations?
I'm pretty sure it's exempt, but just like I said, like if it's a Boy Scout or another, you submit your application to the city secretary department, and there are fees associated with this. So if you're exempt, you still need to go through my office and submit an application, and we still need to issue a permit to you, but we just don't charge. We don't charge because you're exempt.
But you do get them.
Yes, yes.
So, always on behalf of the Sienna people, does this apply to Sienna Plantation, or is that exempt from the law and it falls under the homeowners association?
The city of Missouri City.
So do Sienna residents have the same, we're not in the city?
You're not in the
so
city.
When I come to sell the Hoover vacuum cleaner, we can't say, where's your license? Because
I'm sorry, no.
we don't exist.
Well, Fondren Park used to have, I don't know if they still do, Citizens Watch Committee, and volunteers would volunteer a couple of hours a month. And the police department provided us with walkie-talkies and a magnetic sign to put on your cars, so we would control the area. And if we saw these people, we would call.
We do, we say there's Hoover vacuum cleaner people on the next street.
But once they cross over to Missouri City, that's really when I can send my code enforcement officers out there. Sorry.
I just want the emotion thing from the, whatever you type, I want to be able to, I just want to have my upside down smile.
Okay, and I have one more slide before we complete. These are just additional duties, miscellaneous duties that I do at my department. We hold the court, we're the custodian of the city seal. You can pretty much read through that, and if you have any, my last slide is questions, but if, we've been accepting it, but if you have any other questions or if, to ask me, let it go.
Can you ride a unicycle?
No, I can't. I could try. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
All right. Now, Maria, don't go anywhere, because next is our
mock city council meeting.
mock council meeting. So,
Okay.
oftentimes you might watch on MCTV.
You might see on MCTV the council meeting, or you may actually have come to one of our council meetings, and you go, man, that looks easy. Now, you've heard from Maria and I a lot of the stuff that's going on, but one of the things that often gets asked about is policy. How is policy determined? How are some of these decisions made? I heard a couple of y'all ask about that as something y'all wanted to learn more about. And so it's one to where you're going to kind of get just a feel about how some of the difficulty that goes into making decisions and, being a council member, having to adhere to state law, do your own city charter, being, the city attorney and city manager and city secretary and trying to make sure everything gets run efficiently and orderly. And so I need some volunteers. And I can either call upon you, or y'all can just come up here and start sitting up here. Just come on up. Everybody find a chair that wants to volunteer and be part of this. I need 10 to make this work.
Just take a seat. Okay, please take a seat. We need 10 volunteers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5.
I like this.
Okay.
Yeah, which one? Which number? Number
Okay.
6. What?
6, 7, sir. Hi. Are you here? 7? 8.
Yes, I am.
9.
That's my
10.
district rep
Okay, come
right
on.
there.
It vibrated.
Come on, let's go.
Yolanda.
And I need someone to sit right here in the middle. I need someone,
Come up to a meeting, Yolanda.
I would love for you to sit in the middle. In the middle?
Sure.
Not to mine.
Well, you know what? At early years, she didn't at several.
You can sit right here.
She was at the last.
Even here, too.
These are, they seem like they're high up and
Get
then
to make our homeowners association. Sir.
Do you have the agendas? I think they might have left them on their desk.
What were you, what?
District A?
Do you have agendas?
Where's your homeowner association?
Oh, the election.
other Monday.
yeah, really.
Stacy?
Missouri City Middle School, E.A. Jones.
Pretty small room.
Yeah. I know Marshall always attended. Even for 15 minutes, Marshall was there.
City Secretary, City Manager, City Attorney, Council Member, Council Member, Council Member, Mayor, Council Member, Mayor Pro Tem, Council Member.
You want me to move?
It's on our city website, but I've been more than happy to send it to you. You have your email address on here? Okay.
It's high.
I think I might have spoken to you before. Tommy Blankenship, I remember your name.
I'm going to put it on our website.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You
I
can
like
sit
your
there.
necklace. I've been staring at it.
Unless you want to,
The city secretary.
Okay. We got our city attorney, we got our city manager, we got our city secretary.
All right, I'm making some rules here.
Anybody know
Now that we know she runs the show.
Mayor?
Yeah.
That's
So
right.
you know Robert's rules?
No, but I hope we don't have, I don't think it doesn't go this long.
I'm the city
We have to use
secretary.
it.
Before we start, is there anybody that's a rabble-rouser that will say it like it's supposed to be said to the citizens or to the rest of the group?
Now you bring up a good question. Okay, now you've got your agendas, there's,
Somebody give me an agenda.
It gets up to the mic and says something.
There she is, right there, in the
I'm the one that's going to say it like it is.
But guess what?
What?
You can't say it like it is.
Oh.
You know, and
I asked, because
You
I'm going to be
can't-
on the audience.
welcome to being an elected member and to agendas and the Open Meetings Act.
Okay.
So, now I guess you could say it as it is, but you're going to have to be, there's particular times that you have to be, you can only be able to say it like it is.
2 minutes, and that's it.
So, as you go through here, there's a roll call, there's a pledge, there's all the particulars in here. There's our presentations we do, there's things that we recognize. And this one we had Chief Fitzgerald, who was retiring and going to Pennsylvania. And so we recognized him, had several speeches come forward. The mayor and myself helped recognize him for that. We had Missouri City Citizens University Week. So a proclamation was done. Actually, this is one I think she added on there as a, there you are. And then the Clean Restaurants Awards. So pretty much you just had about your first 45 minutes to an hour of your meeting consumed with presentations and recognitions, especially because you had the Clean Restaurants Award, and that's usually, what, about 20 restaurants or so? Yeah, so that's one where you get some work done or whatever it is while you're sitting up there while the mayor announces all the clean restaurants who got essentially A's or better, right?
They need to have A's, or 95 or higher.
There we go. So, like I said, so essentially, you know, here you are, you're ready to go, you spent the weekend studying because you got your agenda and your packet back on the Friday, tonight's your Monday meeting. So back on Friday, you got an alert from Maria saying, here's your full packet. So you got an agenda, but then you got probably about, depending on the size of the packet, maybe 100 to 200 other pages, electronically most of the time. We have a couple council members who still like paper, but for the vast majority of it, you got electronically. And so you got to spend your weekend studying. So you studied, you read, you reviewed your agenda, you got your packet down. So like I said, you're coming in here, you're 7 o'clock, you're sitting down, you're ready to go. And you just, like I said, you had your first 30 minutes to 45 minutes taken up with presentations and recognitions. Now, we love presentations and recognitions because it's the time that we know that it's going to be good. We know it's going to be bright, smiling faces, people loving their community, because that will probably quickly change on you. So you like that, start off with smiles and giggles, and then work your way down from there. So public comments. Now, we talked about rabble-rouser a minute ago. Okay, it's public comments time. So anybody and everybody who wants to, they can be a resident of Missouri City or not, has an opportunity to sign up with Maria to say, I want to talk about something. It doesn't have to be on the agenda. It's just something that they're mad about their neighbor's dog, which isn't on the agenda, but they want to tell you about their neighbor's dog. Right. So they come up here and they tell you about their neighbor's dog. Now, don't say that's right, city attorney, because you got to make sure these guys don't screw it up and and us go to jail. So he's up here, he's pounding his fist. He wants you to do something. So your first response might be, because you're elected by the public to do something, right? So he's saying, what are you going to do about it? What's your response going to be?
We'll check into it.
No.
Well, no, actually, your city manager is pretty smart. She gave you some good advice. That is about the extent of what you can say. You can't say, well, hold on now, let's talk about this. City manager, what'd you do about it? Why didn't animal control go do something about his dog? You can't have a conversation where you know this guy and you know he doesn't even know about it. He doesn't have any dogs in his neighborhood. What's he talking about?
Doesn't have to be on the agenda in order to discuss anything.
Doesn't have to be on the agenda. The guy can be talking about something that's actually legitimately a concern. He could be out of his mind talking about something. Right. You as council members, though, really to the extent of it, your city manager gave you the best advice. The mayor can say something to the extent of, we'll look into that and get back with you. But you can't engage in conversation because it's not on your agenda. The second you begin a conversation with this person about their concerns, legitimate or not, a same concern you might have or not, the minute you start doing that, you have violated the Open Meetings Act, because you are having a conversation or a discussion or even policy direction on an issue that is not on the agenda. You did not give the citizens of Missouri City an opportunity to know that you would be discussing that issue. So it's one where they could actually be calling you liars. They could be saying mean, nasty things about you, and sometimes they do. But it's one to where you as council members have to have thick skin and just say, either say thank you, which is often the case that is done, or if it's an issue, we'll look into it and get back with you.
So, I'm sorry. So why do you have it open so that it'll be something they'll look into later? I mean, to have it open, if you can't discuss it anyway, why have open questions?
And some cities actually have gotten away from it, to say, you know what, if the state's going to be that restrictive in regards to the Open Meetings Act, then we won't have an opportunity for citizens to comment. But with the message that sometimes sends is one, it's a negative image. It's one of which it's saying that then you don't care about the citizens. It's not that you don't care about the citizens. You've got a concern about the legal challenge that creates if you then put yourself in the opportunity to talk about, if you as a council member start talking about it. But it's one to where oftentimes cities continue on with this like we have because you want to give that citizen an opportunity. And you know that you, through especially your city attorney, can exert enough discipline on the council, and they'll have enough discipline for themselves to hear the issue, let the citizen feel like he or she has had the opportunity to get it off their chest, and either, like I said, if it's a legitimate thing, maybe there's something that has to be done. If it's not, then they've been able to say it. They have about 2 minutes to say it, and so, when their time is up, they've gone on. You as council members, go about your business, and staff may want to say if there's an actual issue, look to address it, and then get back with the council and that person at a later date.
So when we had, earlier this year, last year we had that bond reform that the councilman approved, and the 20 or so persons that spoke at that time, basically they were talking to deaf ears.
So yeah, you had the tax rate.
They didn't say nothing. You just got your 2 minutes and that was it.
Yeah. Now, there are some different things, we'll get to those as we go on. So that was the tax rate hearing, was that right? The public hearing on the tax rate. And so now that, and it's one where we may have some examples in here, that one is one to where there's a public hearing that's actually called for on that, and council can engage in the discussion back. So on that one, like for the tax rate for the public hearing, that's one to where, because of the amount of people that were going to speak, both against and for the subject, council, took it and said, in order to make this work efficiently, let's have everybody speak on the issue, and then we will then give our comments and talk about our decision. So, but they can, at the same time, if it is a public hearing that's on here, and oftentimes we have this with zoning cases, where the person comes up and gives their opinion either for or against a zoning case, or an issue of, if it was a tax rate hearing and there was only like 2 people speaking, council can engage in a discussion with that person at that point. And especially in regards to zoning, they often do, in order to get more information from the person or else to really understand their point. So they will hear from that person and have that opportunity to speak with them. But it's the public comments that you'll often see, and sometimes it gets the perception on the public comments that the council doesn't care about the person. It's one where they're up here, they're upset, they may be crying, upset, and then the best thing the mayor says to them is, we'll look into it. Oh my goodness, this person just poured their heart out. This council doesn't care. It really is, the council does care. The council, pretty much, anytime somebody brings an issue to them, they want to understand what that issue was about. But it's just one that they understand because of legal restrictions as well as just the effectiveness of the council, they can't engage in that discussion with that person.
I mean, but can't they add to the agenda before the agenda saying that they will respond to public comments at least 15 minutes, and that way they can respond?
Well, it's not on the agenda, though.
I mean,
so
it can be added to the agenda prior to. I mean, if you know you're going to have a meeting, you know you're going to have people coming in having certain things to deal with, add that 15 minutes in there to respond.
Well, but that's one to where that's on the idea that you know that it's coming. They sign up at the council meetings to talk on the item. And so, because you can't change your agenda's gone out 72 hours in advance.
Right, so it has to be that specific item.
Yes. And oftentimes, because of, citizens bring us all kinds of different issues and items and concerns. It's one to where we, as especially staff, city manager and city secretary, and even city attorney to some degree, we're the gatekeepers. We worked and try to judge what is it that actually, as you'll see on this agenda, there are very much procedural things that work their way forward to the council for consideration and discussion. Oftentimes, especially when council members have maybe kind of just areas or issues that they want to talk about or discuss, that's done in a work session at the 6 o'clock hour. The agenda is treated much the same way. That is posted 72 hours in advance, and you can only focus on what that topic or issue is. But you may see something that's a little bit more kind of bigger in discussion, like trash cans, or, and we'll kind of get specific in regards to what the discussion is, but you won't see it on this agenda, especially during the regular meeting. We get very focused and very much procedural in what is the issue and the resolution and the action that they're supposed to take.
What's the law on open mics? Because I've watched many city council meetings as they've been replayed, and many times you'll hear a question asked, and you might see a mayor pro tem cut off mic and they're talking. You can hear what they're saying. So if I can hear it on the public record that I'm watching on the YouTube video or whatever it is that you put it out on, then you as the city secretary, shouldn't you be recording that inaudible, audible conversation as part of the record?
I report action by council.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what's in the minutes. It's whatever action council takes for the items that are posted on the agenda.
Yeah, we don't do verbatim minutes. We only do the action, we do action minutes. For that very reason, that and all kinds of stuff. I mean, conversations can go kind of all over the place as long as they try to stay, within the walls of the item.
So a second to that, if someone was to approach the podium here and then suddenly be engaged in conversation by a city council member, and that was never their intent, they just wanted to get up there and have the platform, then what should a citizen do if council says something to them?
If council says something to them, that's usually when city attorneys can pop up, say, raise your hand, go, excuse me.
What if the city attorney doesn't? What if the city attorney doesn't?
And that's where the city secretary goes, hey, whoa, hold on. And city manager then also, if then we have an issue of just having to remind council members, it's, you're not to participate in public comment.
You like the citizen should do that?
No, we as council, we as staff do that.
Oh, okay.
So.
What establishes a quorum?
A quorum is 4 members of the council or more.
And do you officially adopt the agenda? I don't see that on here.
No.
You do not?
Yes, that is correct. We do not adopt the agenda. The agenda is set, like I said, the agenda is set by staff, and then it is one to where it is posted. And once it is posted, it is one to where that is the official agenda. So you've had then a staff report, follows kind of the public comments, and actually our agenda is dictated by an ordinance that states this is the order of the agenda. So the number of topics you see there as far as pledge, presentations, public comments, staff reports, consent, this is the order as set forth by a city ordinance. Consent agenda. Consent then becomes the items that are somewhat housekeeping items. It may be purchases that were done, that were already outlined in the budget that the council approved. It may be second readings of ordinances, like you see here. Some of our ordinances, except for ones dealing primarily with the budget and tax rates, require 2 readings for them to become law. And that's as set forth by the city charter. And so it's one to where sometimes you'll have the council have a first reading at the one where they've had the public hearings and all this, but then the second reading comes along, no changes to the ordinance, and so those are part of consent. And for consent, it just takes one member of the council to say, I'd like to pull this item for discussion, if there's a particular item they have concerns about, and then that item's pulled, and then staff has, a presentation discussion with council, and then from there, council then votes on that item. But typically, consent is kept together as a group, and then council approves that consent, all the consent items as one action. You have then public hearings and related actions. Zoning public hearings are that really as far as dictated by state law is how zoning actions work. And with that is one to where both through Planning and Zoning Commission and then up to the City Council for your actions and considerations on zoning items. And so the Planning and Zoning Commission has already had an opportunity to have a public hearing and then give a recommendation to the council. And so this one was, let me see over this, was over on, off of Gessner, over on Pike Road area. We've had quite a bit of industrial development over there. A variance was requested as part of the development that they wanted, a business they wanted to build there for a certain type of glass and some changes they wanted to make to what would have been the facade requirements for our city ordinances. So that becomes a zoning change, or at least a special use permit issue that then works its way up to council, and council then makes a decision on. Planning and Zoning Commission, about a month ago, made their decision and recommendation and issued a positive recommendation on this to the City Council. City Council then has the opportunity. Mayor will call for a public hearing. The item is read by the city attorney, and then the mayor says, I open the public hearing. Any citizens, or not even citizens, anyone who is interested in this item has the opportunity to then come forward and speak on it. So you may have some citizens. In this case, there were no citizens. The person who was associated with the property was out of the country the first time the council considered it and asked for the item to be tabled until the developer, the business owner, had the opportunity to be available to the council for discussion. So it came back, and we'll say this was the second time it had come back. Still the first reading because council didn't take any action on it the first time. And so mayor calls for the public hearing to be open. The person who is the developer or the business owner or that is making the request comes forward, says, here's what I'm trying to do, want to accomplish. Staff may have a presentation to go along with it to say, here's how the variance is requested, here's the different issues that are part of this, here's kind of the item and really the action that you're both considering and kind of being requested to take. Staff's recommendation is provided, Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation is provided, and then once all that has happened, council then begins a discussion. Usually there's a motion for approval and a second that is given. That is, they use Robert's Rules of Order, so that's the procedure that's taken for council then to begin the discussion amongst themselves. So all this has occurred. You now have the opportunity to have the discussion amongst yourselves. There may be questions you still have of staff. maybe questions you have that you're asking each other, and then city attorney or city manager then pop up and say, you know, there's this that you need to consider, there's this that is an issue. I know you may have said that, but we need to make sure that everything is clear in relationship to whatever might have been said. So a little participation here, but not a lot. The main discussion is going to happen between the 6 council members and the mayor in regard to the item. So, yes, ma'am.
And if you're a citizen who is aware of that, whatever that issue is, the time to come and make your point is not at that city council meeting, because it's pretty much a rubber stamp at that point. I think from my experience and what I've seen in this room, the time to do that is to go to that Planning and Zoning Commission meeting weeks ago and convince the people on that team that they should or shouldn't adopt that policy, so that when they recommend it to the city council, they're not going to come in here and have a long argument about it. That's what I've seen when I come in here. I kind of go, whoa.
And I see your point, but it's oftentimes, and you'll see a couple of them. I know there's one that's coming up that's going to be interesting, because it's about a church in a business area that wants to go into a strip center, and Planning and Zoning Commission gave it a recommendation for approval. But as it goes to council, I know I have several council members who are opposed to it. I have several council members who have a lot of questions. There actually is quite a bit of engagement and discussion on some of these different items, especially when it comes to zoning. For this one in particular, the P&Z made a recommendation for approval. The council became very concerned, especially with some of the issues they've had lately with some of the industrial development that backs up to Stafford, about is there going to be enough kind of buffer, and then also kind of somewhat screening going to this. So they started to ask questions about fencing, and which P&Z really hadn't discussed. And then the final recommendation from the council that they made, or the motion they made that was for approval, was for construction of a fence to be able to cover anything they may have that's in storage behind the facility, in order to provide that amount of screening from whether Stafford residents, but to provide that, to make that mandatory, so that if you're living in Stafford and you have your house there, you're not looking at equipment or the like that this business would have. So it is there are changes sometimes made, and there's sometimes recommendations brought forward by Parks Board or Planning and Zoning Commission that council either rejects or modifies and changes, like they did with this one. But this is an opportunity, because it is a public hearing, this is an opportunity for citizens to speak at that point, and make their points.
And to anybody who doesn't know, I don't know if it's you who does it, but somebody does put those planning and zoning meetings that are ahead of time. I've started to see them pop up now as public record before the meetings. You can get them on YouTube, so it's great. You can see it before they come to the city council meeting. So I appreciate that, even though I don't have a vote on it.
The next item you have on there is going to be, so you've made your decision, you've given approval, denial, modifications to whatever was there. Your next one's going to be another public hearing, but this one isn't a zoning action. This public hearing is going to be on the city's Parks Master Plan. So there are certain times, especially for our master plans, because of the fact they go towards our comprehensive plan, we have public hearings on those. So a presentation, the mayor may call for, the mayor would call for the public hearing to be open. Staff may give a presentation so everybody understands, and then anybody that wants to speak to this item then has that opportunity. Council recently did one on like the bicycle pedestrian mobility plan, and so quite a bit of discussion about what is the impact in Missouri City, what are some of the early projects we can do from this plan, some of that type of discussion before they then give approval to it. So you're dealing with that as part of it. So it may not be, with the zoning action, that's actually a legal action. That can come back to haunt you if, for whatever reason, you make a decision based upon not reason, but maybe just more on, that's one where they're asking for this zoning request. They have legitimate claims to be able to make the zoning request, and for whatever reason, you vote against it, and they can actually, that can be challenged in a court of law. But there are some things regarding like City Parks Master Plan that your approval of that won't come back to haunt you at a later date. But it is something to where you're going to have a public hearing because you want public input on it. So you've had that action, you've made the approval of the Parks Master Plan. Now you've got appointments. Usually with appointments, the council's most recent process over the past year has been to interview the people beforehand. Anyone who wants to apply for some of those different boards and commissions you heard about earlier, they'll have interviewed them in previous work sessions and then come out here and give recommendations on here's who we'd like to see fill certain slots. So sometimes you may see that and go, well, how the heck did they come to that? That's because they did interviews as a group in the work sessions prior that we don't televise. So that's some of the action that's happening there. Authorizations, now these are the things that really are actions that we're asking for council to take. Most of the time, it's related to purchases. Sometimes it's about agreements that we may need to have. These three, for example, are an interlocal agreement between us and Fort Bend County for fire protection services, where the county then pays us for the services we provide out into the county outside the city limits based on a number of runs that we provide into those areas. One on the purchase of a new fire truck that was done. And then the other one authorizing the city secretary to implement language standards for elections. We've kind of been caught, because of the fact we span Harris County and Fort Bend County, we got caught in a kind of a loophole that exists. Harris County is required to print their ballots in election language in not only English and Spanish, which is a requirement that all counties in Texas have, but they were also required to put it in Vietnamese and Chinese and Vietnamese, okay. So we had 4 languages that we had to translate them into. And so what we found is Fort Bend County doesn't require that, Harris County does. Now, the law does allow for us to say we can choose one or the other. And so that was what the request we made from council. And it's one to where the first thing is, I know a lot of people said, well, what does it hurt to have it in 4 different languages? Well, if you don't read, or if you don't have anybody that reads Vietnamese, you can actually print it in just kind of nonsense language because you didn't know that it was going that way, which happened one time before Maria, where it was actually just symbols that didn't make sense. Oh, it was you? Okay, well. And so that could be an issue. Other times, though, is the cost of it. And Maria, what were we spending on translation costs?
Last year, we translated all of our election, anything that had to do with the election, we translated in Spanish, Vietnamese, and Chinese. So last year, I want to say it was between, I think it was $17,000 to just translate, our ordinances, the notices, the information that had to do with the election, and those, in those 3 languages.
So for us, we were looking at it primarily from the financial standpoint of it, of just there is savings that could be had by just having it in English and Spanish, and if on the odd chance we've never had anybody request it actually in Vietnamese or Chinese, but it was, if the request was made, we could work through that issue. But to have it just printed out there and to spend that cost and not have anyone that has ever asked for it was a concern. So council said, look, from the financial standpoint of this especially, we understand, let's just do English and Spanish as our other Fort Bend county cities are doing, and the rest of the state. So they made that change there. So these are some of the kind of decisions that you as council members are kind of being forced on. And, it's tough as it is for you. I want to talk to my brothers over here and sister, the city attorney and city manager and city secretary. Y'all the ones, these are the 3 that are making sure that all this stuff comes to you is actually legitimate. It has met all the legal tests, which are much and mighty. It is one to where it is, nothing is screwed up about it. Everything is as it should be for the city manager and the city secretary, making sure that this all gets before you correctly. Because even just one word wrong on your agenda all of a sudden is screwed up and you got to start all over again. So these 3 are carrying the water on all of this, but it is one to where you now have the big decisions to make in relationship to it. Because even like the language standards, that can quickly be turned against you if someone wants to try to do that. So it's one to which you've got financial duties you've got to consider. There's the fact of just really the practicality of the issues, but then there's also the fact that somebody could say, you doing this could be seen as just, you're being biased against people who speak Chinese or Vietnamese. So you've got to be careful about these things, and we understand the difficulty of these decisions. The next one is ordinances. Yes, ma'am.
When they were discussing the language, were they taking any comments from the floor, or was they just discussing it with, I've never been to it.
No, that's okay. So there is an opportunity to actually sign up for these items, to speak to them, isn't that? I mean, it's one to where beforehand. Again, you need to be able to sign up, and then the mayor will call you to come speak to it.
It's signing up when you arrive, or
Yes.
signing up before you get, I mean, like the
When
3
you
days?
arrive.
Orange forms in the back
Thank
of the
you.
council chamber where anybody can sign up. And it's for, if anybody wants to speak for an item that's posted, let's say if you wanted to speak for agenda items 9C, when it comes to public comments, the mayor calls only those people that want to speak on items that are not on the agenda. If someone wants to speak over agenda item 9C, we hold that application until we get to agenda item 9C, and then the mayor calls you up to speak on that item.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And so now you hit ordinances. These are our laws of the city, the ordinances are. And so in the ordinances, it's one to where the city attorney will again read the ordinance as far as the official language of the ordinance. Won't read the full ordinance, but just as far as really the caption header information. And so that's the role of the city attorney, one of the roles of the city attorney in this. And then it's one to where usually a presentation will be done. This was an interesting one on relation to sex offenders and us being able to kind of, one of the actions we've recently taken is to expand the boundaries really it's, what's the buffer area or whatever it might be, we might want to call it, between the public areas, between your schools, your playgrounds, or whatever, that a sex offender can live. So the amount of the area is really that a sex offender can live in Missouri City, we decreased with this recent ordinance. But we also had to make sure that we did provide those locations so that we were able to not violate either state or federal law. And so this was one to where we had actually worked it out with council beforehand. We had an executive session before the meeting with the council to talk about some of the legal issues in relation to this, so that they knew what those were and didn't, I'll say it, they didn't trip up out in public and possibly expose the city to a potential lawsuit by asking a question or misunderstanding something that then someone who might be litigious on this issue could then bring forward to say, well, hold on, I have, because of the documentation from the council meeting, I have the council meeting member saying this was their intent, and it's one to which, because of the fact that you were, too prohibitively discriminating against me as a sex offender, or if you were representing a class of sex offenders or whatever, come after the city. So we actually prepared the council beforehand in order for the city attorney did a presentation so they would understand what this issue was fully about, and so that when they came out here, they could have a better discussion, better decisions, and one that wouldn't actually introduce the city to any potential legal challenges based upon their conversation. So with that, then we move to the fees for metal recycling and crafted precious metal dealer permits. This is one that we've been kind of working on. The previous ordinance, which actually the second reading of, y'all approved earlier, was further restrictions and regulations in relationship to the police department being able to go into some of these metal recycling, like the gold shops that we have and pawn shops, to be able to go in there and have them catalog and to collect information on who are they buying these type of goods from. So that way, if something was stolen in Missouri City, if your rings were stolen, or you had jewelry that was stolen, or other types of maybe precious metals, then the police department would be able to go by and look at what are really as far as catalogs and information those stores have to see if that corresponds to anything that they are looking at for an ongoing investigation. So this is one to where this is, in order to get a permit from the city, we put a fee in place to recover the cost of staff time so that we could know where all of the different precious metals dealers in Missouri City are and be able to, that they have the information on what they're responsible for collecting. You then do announcements, kind of anything, we have some members who are council members who are members of different boards or commissions, kind of from a more Houston area type thing. Maybe they serve on a committee with Metro, they may be members of our Houston Galveston area council. This is their opportunity to talk about, hey, these type of things are coming up, the events. It's kind of a catch-all that we do in order to make sure for the Open Meeting Act that we don't have any violations. Now, if it's one to where the conversation starts to get, if you have a council member going, hey, by the the way, I want to invite y'all to our tree planting on February 22nd to kind of get that out there. And then some other council member goes, well, you know what about those trees? How come in subdivision X, we're not doing more to plant trees? And then it's one where oftentimes, city attorney, what do you do?
Can't talk about that.
Thank you, city attorney. City manager, you might have to prod him a little bit. Make sure he catches it. There we go. Ooh, check that out. You're getting good there.
Are they planting fruit trees? Are they planting fruit trees?
We planted olive trees recently with the newest batch that we're doing. It's not on the agenda.
Fruit trees, please. The kids love to go pick the fruit.
On the February 22nd event, I'm not sure what all we're planning, but I think we may have either information on that or we'll push that out to y'all.
Who's our city manager?
I'll go help plant if you tell me they're fruit trees, but if they're not.
Not on the agenda.
They have the arbor one along there.
You have been trained well, sir.
Right. I don't know if these are.
Now, the next one is your closed executive session. Now, this one doesn't have any items on it, and so it's one to where you wouldn't have, but sometimes we may see something. We'll often do it with the work session to go ahead and get it over with before the 7 o'clock meeting so the council can be able to not have that kind of pressing down on them that they need to go into it. But oftentimes, there are a few issues that the council can go into executive session on to be able to have discussions with particularly the city attorney. These are the type of items that you don't want to be talking about in the open because of potential litigation. Oftentimes, it's personnel issues. It could be something to where sometimes it's economic development issues, in which case really it's the city manager that needs to have a discussion with you, but the city attorney is there to kind of safeguard things. Because especially when you're doing economic development negotiations and you're working with a company to figure out what type of percentage, say, tax abatement you want to do with them, you don't want to be sitting out in the open talking about what you may be willing to go up to, but what you want to start with, because you just gave away your whole game plan to the company. And so you'll go into executive session to be able to do that. And land purchase is the same thing. For example, you needed to acquire land for a new facility, a new fire station, or for a new park. You don't want to have discussions about land acquisition and what you're willing to pay versus what you want to ask for while you're sitting out here in the open, so that all they have to do is go to YouTube and find out, well, what's my asking price going to be? So you can have those type of discussions. And the same thing with, you may have a lawsuit you're trying to settle. You may have some different legal issues you're trying to resolve. You then go again. That's something you can go to executive session on. It's very limited to pretty much those. I mean, Maria, did I miss any? Pretty much as far as personnel, land acquisition, economic development, and litigation are going to be the ones that you can go back there for. But say, like for the zoning issue, you didn't like the look of their glass, but you really don't want to tell them about it. Well, sorry, you're going to have to talk about that in the open. Those are the type of issues that there is no going into the back room. The only thing that would go back room is just like I talked, the council conference room.
That's that room? Is that
Yes.
a room? Oh.
That's where we go to hash out some of this stuff. The only thing.
Don't clear you don't clear
the secret.
No.
Just go in there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's one where it's,
Clear.
once you're, we're not going to ask these people to move. They're happy. It's one where, it's, last thing you want to do is ask citizens to go someplace else.
Yeah.
Board meetings for homeowners.
If they're nice and settled in, y'all are happy, yeah, leave them there.
Board meetings for homeowner association, everybody leave, and then we convene into
y'all
executive
tough.
session. And then when we're done with that, okay, we can go home.
Sometimes council might want to take action after exec session. So they go in the back, and then if they come to a decision and they need to take action, then they come back out.
Oh,
Take action
okay.
here.
Okay.
Say there's authorization to move forward with an economic development project.
Okay.
So it's one to where kind of the discussion's back there. Now, executive sessions, you can't make a decision. You can't vote on a decision. No votes can be taken in executive session.
Okay.
So you kind of get to a feeling where, okay, the discussion's been had. Usually the mayor's going to be responsible for saying, you know what, we've kind of fleshed this out. We understand where everybody is on this. Let's go back out there and we'll take an action. And typically it's a very quick action as far as approval or for whatever item or rejection of whatever item. And then usually that's done towards the end of the meeting and then dismissal after that.
So
where Eunice was going after that, I don't know what the story is on that, Carl.
Okay.
Right, and for the mayor, city council's 3 direct reports, they were in exec session. And sometimes they interview, sometimes they held special city council meetings to interview the applicants. So we had a special city council meeting to review the applicant for the city manager, city attorney, and city secretary. And then to say they had an exec session to discuss the candidates. And then once they came to a decision, they came out and they took action to hire Ed Broussard as city manager.
Okay. That didn't take long? What did that?
Heck, I wasn't.
Were
I
they
don't
in
know.
there 5 minutes or what?
Well, usually when we, for the city manager, we had special city council meetings, and I think it was, I don't remember if it was 1 day or 2 days, where we had special city council meetings on the weekends for council to come and interview the candidates. And then once we had special city council meetings for them to interview the candidates, then they took action during regular city council meetings.
And somebody, you had asked about, well, I think it was, but they asked about quorums earlier. You also have to have a quorum in the executive session. So, for example, you've got, you've had 4 members, you've got a 6th spell going on or whatever, and then one of the council members go like, I have got to go home, I don't feel well myself. You're down to 3, and you're in executive session, meeting over. You can't do anything further. So it's one where, let me say, our council members have actually, all 7, have been very great about attending meetings. We don't have ones to where, well, gosh, it'd be nice if this council member ever showed up. They are very good at attending as far as both regular meetings and executive sessions. And sometimes you'll even be, and this isn't on your agenda, but as council members, the mayor appoints committees. And so we have about, I guess, 7 or 8 committees that are made up of 3 council members on a committee. So, for example, we have an Economic Development Committee consisting of Councilmember Wynn, Councilmember Ellicott, and I think Councilmember Emery is my 3rd member of my Economic Development Committee. And it's one to where we'll have special meetings with them, and those will be outside of the council meetings. And because it's those 3, it doesn't require for posting of those meetings. So it's one to where, but they aren't allowed to really make decisions on, as far as say, okay, this is what we're going to do. They then give a recommendation back up to the council. So for example, our Budget and Finance Committee, they review a number of different things, but then you'll see those on the council agenda later with a recommendation from them for whatever action needs to be taken. Any council, before the mayor adjourns the meeting, any additional questions?
Let's not grab Moved. gavel.
I move we rescind any previous, any further comments and adjourn.
What about questions from, well, not from you. Any further questions here? Yeah. So, this is, hit the gavel, go for it, there we go.
You've been wanting to do that all.
This meeting, I appreciate your time on this one. This meeting I know went incredibly long. It's one to where, and it's one, at your next meetings, you're going to get a lot more hands-on. You'll find yourself, it's not as, this one's always kind of one to where it's a lot of sitting and talking and questions, but it's one to where you're going to find the next meetings are going to really get to be, it's whoever said you get your hands dirty, you're going to get your hands dirty on some of this other stuff. We'll advise you when you need to maybe dress down, because there will be some where you actually will get your hands dirty. With the next one, though, which is...
So long as I had a dig, I'll be fine.
So Public Works is February, so do they need to wear like jeans and, okay, so yes. So for the next meeting, you've got Public Works. And for Public Works, do dress down. Don't wear jeans if possible. Something you don't mind getting, I guess, a little dirt on?
Yeah.
What gloves? What's the field safety attire?
Just jeans, closed-toe shoes would be fine on that. And like Maria had a handout, a door prize, we're going to give everybody a free puppy from the animal shelter. Just be ready.
Does their city just start animal shelter? I'm holding you.
Yes. We have our own animal shelter.
That's under you.
That's under me. Yeah. They never told me in engineering school that I'll be running an animal shelter.
So do we meet there? Or do we have
We're going to meet at our service center, which is in this same municipal complex, but it'll be...
It won't be in City Hall, so it's one where, you know where the library is? Okay, so it's just past the library. It's the group of buildings we have. It's on the same side as the library, but it's just past the library. So there's a library parking lot on the back there, and then there's our, the area for the animal shelter.
There's the fleet maintenance, the animal shelter, the street maintenance.
We will send everybody a meeting reminder notice with a map and an address and time frame and a reminder about also attire for the evening. So we'll make sure we send that to everybody and contact you if we don't hear back to make sure you know where we're going to be. Okay, very quickly, if you all could please fill out your surveys before you leave. And for every class, we're going to have a trivia question and a special door prize. The door prize tonight is a gift certificate from the restaurant that catered dinner, and obviously they're very excellent. So I'm going to ask the question, and then the answer has to be in the form of a question. Actually, what I'm going to do is allow this young man who came up with this fantastic idea and the question. This is Corey Stottlemyre, and he's the city's media relations specialist. He's a great part of the communications team, so.
Hello, everyone. Did anybody not get one of the surveys that I handed out? I think I put it on everybody's desk. But there's a silver tray on the table where you signed in. You can just drop it off in there. Okay, so like Stacy said, this is the answer, and you're going to respond in the form of a question. Just raise your hand if you know the answer, and I'll pick you. So the answer is, these are 3 examples of the city's more than 10 boards and commissions. These are 3 examples of the city's more than 10 boards and commissions.
What is Parks and Recreation? What is TIRAS?
TERS.
TERS.
Anybody else?
What is Planning and Zoning?
Okay, perfect. Congrats. You're welcome.
And you can exchange that for a puppy.
Please leave your binders and your surveys at the table, and we'll pick them up and we'll have them available for you next time, and your badges, yes. Handouts, leave those in your binders too, unless you want to take them home and read over them and bring them back the next time around. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You put the pens back, so you'll have your pen, your pad, your binder, your PowerPoint presentations every time you come to class.
And by the way, just since y'all are here, we can give y'all a little safety tips. It is one to where, oh, well, you don't have to record. Oh, this doesn't make the video. Anyway, it is one to where, we've been talking about the winter weather advisory, and I know this morning as you went out maybe in shorts and a t-shirt and going, really? But it is one to where the weather is, of course, quickly dropping. We expect to see by midnight tonight, it really start to get below freezing. Probably about 1/10 of an inch of accumulation of ice is expected on the ground from the rains tonight, and it won't really get above freezing again until probably afternoon tomorrow. So do be careful out there on the roadways as you come upon bridges and any elevated freeways. Take it slow, take it easy, and if you can get around them and not even have to get on them at all, please do that. But be safe out there and stay warm. Yes.
Canada, my summers are colder than this.
We got